to Ask the Dating Coach. I'm your host, Adam Lyons, and I am joined by these wonderful people here. We are here to answer your dating questions and, even more than that, to get into the topic of dating in 2023. What we're going to do is we're going to start allowing all the guests to introduce themselves so you all know who is here, and then we'll take it from there. Why don't we start with Scott at the very end?
Hello, I'm Scott Chase, and I've been a dating coach for a little while now, maybe only like 6 months, but done a lot of studying in the area. I'm 50 years old and divorced, and restarted the whole dating thing in 2020 after a 15-year marriage.
Awesome. And hand the microphone over. Let's...
All right, I'm Leela. I am currently dating. I'm 29 years old, and I just got out of a serious relationship about 6 months ago, so excited to be back and learning more from you guys.
Nice.
Damn, girl, I can imagine what it's life like for you now, you know? I've been with this guy since before Tinder, even, you know? So when people tell me swipe left, right, like, which way is the correct one? I don't know, you know? So I'm Eve Lyons. I am Adam's wife. I work with him a lot, and I, also I coach one of our programs called ACE Formula.
Perfect. Well, you can get the microphone over here. Let's have from Roxanne.
Hi, I'm Roxanne, and I'm also known as Aaliyah Wolf, Playboy Playmate of the Month, and
awesome.
I am.
And just Playboy Playmate of the Month. Excellent. Which month?
And I've been dating for a very long time, and I'm currently in a new relationship with a younger man.
Which month specifically?
Miss February.
Miss February, there we go.
2004, yeah.
There we go, awesome.
Amazing. I'm Courtney Titus, and I've been an intimacy and relationship coach for about 3 years now. I'm also single and in the dating pool after a while, so I'm just excited to be here and learn from you all. Thank you.
What's up, you guys? My name is Lloyd. I'm also a dating coach, dating expert for men, so I service around 250,000 viewers across all my platforms. I specialize in practical advice, so if you are a logical, kind of science-minded guy and you think the dating realm is a little bit foreign to you, I'm your guy.
So you basically coach virgins, right?
I coach a lot of virgins, but I also coach a lot of guys who are like really, they're doing well, but they just need a little bit of extra help to get the kinds of women that they want to date. It's not like they're not getting dates or anything. It's just they're not dating the women that they want to.
Now, before we get into the episode, I do want to let you know that this show is brought to you by our sponsor, the Atomic Bear. This right here is a tactical pen, which is one of the coolest things ever if you're into dating. Ladies especially, highly recommend you get one of these things. The cool thing about a tactical pen is not only is it a pen, that's kind of in the name, but it is tactical in a sense that it's got this nice stabby point here. And so you can just be holding your pen as you're walking home, and some guy reaches out his hand and says, "Excuse me, miss," you can stab him before he says you dropped your wallet. You know, but like, I like it because I just think it's a really cool self-defense tool. And in today's day and age, walking around with a knife, it's kind of like looks a bit too aggressive. But like, you're gonna use the pen to sign checks and what other things people use pens for nowadays. I mean, we don't write anything, but whatever. Anyway, point being, I think tactical pens are great. The Atomic Bear sponsors this. So if you want to be safe on a date, remember there are two forms of protection. One is condoms, and the other is the Atomic Bear Tactical Self-Defense Pen. Don't sleep with anyone without one. So.
And if you want to go and get yourself pen for discount, all you gotta do is go to theatomicbear.com/dating.
That's true, yes. If you want a discount, go to theatomicbear.com/dating. You get a 20% discount. So that is safety, only 80% of the cost, 20% off. That's great, go do that. All right, so with that being said, wow, dating is a unique climate right now. And so I reached out to some of our audience members, by the way, thank you, all of you that are watching live. And I said, what is a topic that we need to tackle and solve in 2023? And they said, equality beyond human rights.
What else? People come upset about us, swear to God.
Yeah, can you be more specific?
For the record, I'm very excited. Very excited. I got a full permission to be uncensored self today. So, I'm very excited I can finally speak the truth. Thank you so much for giving me this permission. I'm not beating you up.
I do want to clarify, it's not me that said she needs to censor herself. It was the team that were concerned, not me. I deal with you every day.
Perfect. Well, the team uncensored me now, so I'm very excited.
Excellent. So we have a Russian woman uncensored on the podcast. This is going to go great. No, but genuinely, equality beyond human rights. What do you all believe that means?
So it sounds like, if I'm getting this correct, like in a relationship or in dating, like, are we trying to make it like 50-50? Like, what is is that what they mean? Because if it's 50-50, dating is not 50-50. It's not 50-50 at all. And if you think about it that way, then you're going to be in for a rough ride. Because, okay, let's take the date, for example. So obviously the guy's paying. Right off the bat, it seems like it's not 50-50. But if you actually look at the whole grand scheme of things, it's different people are contributing to the date in different ways. Okay, so the woman's coming forward, she has to spend time getting ready, her makeup. Guys don't have to spend any time doing that. But the guy also has to take time to plan the day, make sure it's going to an area that's going to be fun for the both of them. So every person is bringing different things to the mix. Now, if you maybe add it up, I guess it would be 50-50. But for people who think about it, they're going to be thinking about it from their point of view. And I think when people come at dating in terms of, oh, I hope it's equal, 50-50, then I think they're running into trouble, because then you're probably going to not be a good partner, because you're going to think, oh, am I getting duped, or am I putting too much in? A guy is going to be like, hey, can we split the bill at the end, which is a big no-no, especially for women who are looking for like someone who can take care of them. So you really have to kind of think about what you're bringing to the table, number one, and why somebody would get with you. And then if that person is someone that you like, then I think that's enough. But when it comes to equality in dating, I think it's a very dangerous road to go down if that's the way you want to think about it.
I want to hear from Layla. She's dating.
I definitely agree with that. It can't be 50-50. Like, there's a lot of different variables that go into that. One being women just don't make as much as men across the board. I think that whoever asks the person out, they should be the one to plan and pay, because they're initiating. If someone chooses like a really expensive restaurant, I'm not going to be able to pay for half of that probably with how much I make. So I don't know, I guess.
So I love this, because we're tackling 50-50 versus not 50-50. Who puts in more effort, in your opinion, the man or the woman?
I don't think there's an across-the-board answer for that. I think that it just depends on the people.
So if it's not 50-50, what is the breakdown?
This is my opinion. So you see this in evolutionary psychology a little bit too. Across species, when it comes to the mating game, at the beginning, men will exert more effort than women across the board. Like birds, you see, like, I don't know if you've watched birds mate, but a lot of times a bird will make a nest, or
Do you just watch birds mate?
I
Is
do.
that your hobby?
I'm getting old.
Gotcha,
I'm at the bird. I'm 31. I'm at the bird watching level of my age now.
I never just see them watch birds mates, What kind of porn do you watch, Lloyd? It's a very good question.
David Attenborough porn. That's what
Sorry, I told you
really into.
myself being myself tonight. But I carry on about bird. Yes, how they make
So
it, tell me more.
if you notice, these birds, they'll create like a nest or a structure, and the female will land, and they'll kind of check out the structure a little bit, and if they don't like the structure, they'll leave and they'll go off someplace. The man is clearly exerting a lot more effort, and with a date, I don't care what anybody says, for most of the dates, women tend to be more picky than men are at the beginning, okay? So they're more choosy, and so the date is kind of an example of the guy showing the woman how he's going to take care of that person, how he's going to treat them in the relationship. And so at the beginning, I think men exert more effort. Now, in the course of the relationship, I think after they start having sex regularly or they get intimate, I think it kind of flips a little bit. But definitely at the beginning, I think men exert more effort.
All right, so here's I'm going to give a counter argument. What if actually women put in more effort? And let me explain why. From the day that men are born, typically, and we're dealing with mostly Western society, the average guy puts zero effort into being good at dating. None. His effort goes into things that benefit him. His fitness is so he can be good at sports. And we're talking about those kind of guys, right? If he's not into sports, if he's into making money, his effort goes into making him money. He's not making money for her, it's largely for him. And anyone who's like, yeah, but I'm gonna make enough money so I can look after a woman, until you decide not to, and then where does that money go? And if she asks you for that money, and is like, hey, we dated and had a child, so half your money is now mine, that guy's gonna fight tooth and nail to keep that money, because he's not actually making it for her. So once we remove all of that, now let's look at the other side. You got your average woman. She is raised, part of her being raised is going to be taught, make sure you look after people, make sure you care for people, make sure you cook, make sure you clean. Every time she's doing makeup. Now people are going to argue, okay, that makeup's for her, so she feels good. But actually, is it? Like, who set that standard that the makeup has to be worn? Most women I know, once they're in a relationship, stop wearing makeup. If it was really for themselves, why wouldn't they keep putting the makeup on? It's because somewhere deep down, and I'm not saying all women, right? There's exceptions, but the majority of women are doing it to achieve a goal. That goal being getting the guy. So now when we weigh up how much makeup costs, you know, the average makeup kit is costing between $200 to $500. The amount of effort she does put into getting ready, the time cost is higher. Once she goes on the date, the guy puts in effort, but she assumes the risk. If I'm thinking about like just financial trading, I actually just came off a call with one of my clients who's a financial stock trader. The effort it took for him to push the button to make the trade was minimal. His fear is all around losing a very large sum of money if something goes wrong. Likewise, on a date, the amount of effort the guy has to put in to pick a date, I'll tell you a fun story. I was in Australia teaching a workshop, we're going back like 15 years, and one of my women dating coaches goes into the restroom, and she comes out and goes, who is, and I think his name was like Lionel Johnson, and the people in the coffee shop start laughing. So it turns out that somebody has written on the stall of the restroom, if Lionel Johnson brings you to this coffee shop, know that this is his standard route of dating. Be warned, he's like bad news. He's just gonna bang you and leave you. And all these women signed underneath, yes, it's true, thanks for the warning.
They have websites for that too, I think, right? There's some
there's
websites.
websites now. They're getting crafty. Yeah.
So the point is, the guys, especially those that are good at dating, they've got a system. They're not actually putting effort in. They're gonna go to the same restaurant, they're gonna take the same walk, they're gonna go back to the same house, play the same music playlist. That effort is streamlined.
I'm the guy.
You're the guy. You have the same playlist, the same restaurant.
I just did like all my dates in the wine bar across the road from my house. Like if I didn't like the date, I just walk home. And everyone knew me at that bar there, so if they
That's
don't
the
like
bar
it.
you took me. Anyway, right, exactly. But what I love about this is like we have this idea that the guy puts the effort in, but does he really? So that's my question. Does he actually put that effort?
Roxanne, what do you think?
I mean, I agree with that. I definitely agree that guys have their standard moves and what they do. I agree that it takes women a lot more effort to maintain our appearance just because it just costs more. But I think it's really interesting, and I think it varies depending on the age you are dating at. I think like me being an older woman, I do things strictly now for myself. So it really is irrelevant what the person I'm dating is doing. I'm going to do what I do regardless. So I kind of, when I'm newly dating someone, I don't think about it in terms of how much effort they're putting in or how much I'm giving. I just do what I do, and I let them do what they do, and just move according to that. I don't even think about it. So that's kind of my take on that.
I'm curious, what about the rest of you? What do you think? I mean, like, I think it'd be good to hear from Scott. Like, Scott, do you think the guys put more effort in, or the women put more effort in?
Well, I think the successful guys put a lot of effort in, and I think the unsuccessful guys put almost no effort in. But I think you're right. I mean, learning a system actually, it sounds really bad, but it's actually really good advice. Because the dating marketplace is really difficult right now. Probably more difficult than it's been for a long time because traditional gender roles are evolving as we speak. It's not like it was in the 1950s or from all the time before then. So as far as effort goes, I think it's just different. I mean, it sounds like a Weasley answer, but it's just different. It's very easy, I think, for men to think, well, I'm paying and I'm setting up the date and doing all these things, so that is all the effort, and overlook the getting ready, the working out in the gym 3 times a week to keep your body fit, because it might be 2023, but I think we still, as men, value women very highly on their physical appearance, probably more so than any other category. And men, traditionally not so valued on that, right? We might be valued on other things like our income, our potential, status, things like that. And all those things take effort, but as you pointed out correctly, Adam, they have ancillary benefits, right, in the career world. So I think it's just, it's very different, but I think this also goes to the whole equality point, right? Does equality mean the same, or does equality mean a balance? And I think if it doesn't mean balance, it should mean balance, because there's the masculine, feminine, is really an important distinction, and they are complementary, right? If you have two people who are identical, like speaking for myself, who was married, there were two alphas in our relationship, and it didn't work for that reason, right? We were butting heads constantly, as opposed to someone who might be a little bit more of a leader, someone who might be a little bit more of a follower, but has complementary skill sets, right? At the same time, I do believe that overlapping interests, like for fun stuff, is really important in a relationship. But on the equality point, I think it's really important to mesh well with your partner, to become almost a whole person, where your partner is filling in your gaps and you're filling in their gaps.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that you just said too, and I think in some ways we're trying to compare two completely different things, right? Men and women are not the same, and we bring different things to the table. So women bring the nurturing and men bring the protection and the providing traditionally. And I do think that there's a shift going on right now that we are getting back into that. We are allowing that to happen. Whereas for a long time, with the feminist movement and stuff, women were stepping up and getting into CEO roles and taking on more of the masculine energy, right? And now it's kind of swaying the other way. And so I think there is no way for it to be 50-50. I think we both bring different gifts to the table, and allowing space for us to do what we're innately going to do is what's needed right now.
So I've got a couple of statements that I want to make, and I'd like to get your guys' opinion on it. The first is, as a business consultant, investor, an expert in a number of different business ventures, I have got to work with a lot of dating coaches and matchmakers. And I have learned that the majority of matchmaking companies refuse to work with women over the age of 35. It is an internal metric. They won't announce this publicly. You can absolutely apply, but behind the scenes, I'm not gonna name names, but I know for a fact that like 3 of the biggest matchmaking companies in America will not work with women over the age of 35. Now, here's what's fascinating. They will absolutely take them through the process, guide them through, but when it comes down to it, they don't like taking their money. And there'll be exceptions, the right person, if they meet someone, they're like, okay, this person we're gonna say yes to, because it keeps up the appearances that they do it. But they are like point blank refusing to, because it doesn't make business sense. The internal reason is as follows. The women over the age of 35 have unrealistic expectations of what they're gonna get. The guys that they want don't want them, and these women always complain and want a refund. So that is an internal statement. I swear that is a real conversation I've had, because they came to me and said, what do we do with the 4,000 plus women over the age of 35 that want to give us large sums of money, and we don't want to take it because we're going to have to refund them after doing the work, and we don't want to do that. And they hired me to be like, what can we do to monetize this? So my question is, why is that happening? Do you believe it's happening? Like, I know it's happening, but do you believe it? And why is that a thing? So, yeah, somebody want to take the mic and give it a go?
I'm going to ask Scotty, because I am still yet under 35.
I absolutely believe it's happening from a business sense, and I get it from a business sense, regardless of equality or egalitarianism. And I think the answer is because just historically and certainly today, and this has been my own experience as well, as an older guy, if you have your stuff together, that can be very attractive to younger women. And the dating pool just gets expanded. Like, for me, having gone through a divorce, I was very concerned, am I gonna find anybody, right? Is anyone gonna find me attractive? I at the time was 47 years old.
Did you cry a lot?
No. No, it was.
You haven't matched with your feelings then?
No, I was very uncertain as to what it was going to be like. But I found out very quickly, even though it was the middle of COVID, that it wasn't that hard, right? Like to find a quality person that I really meshed with was not easy, right? But to get a date, and to get a date with, women in their 50s, 40s, 30s, 20s was all possible, right? There was a huge pool for me. That pool is smaller for women, rightly or wrongly, from a biological standpoint. Even when you're not looking to have children, like I'm not looking to have any more children, but I still do find certain things attractive. That's just kind of how we're wired, right? Mm-hmm. Where women find different things attractive in men, and it also evolves more, I think, with women over time. I think if you look at the stats, I've heard, women usually like find men within 5 years up and down physically attractive, right? So that moves as they get older, right? But guys, like, they're always looking at a certain age range that's relatively young. But attractiveness of a male, physical attractiveness, is usually not the number one criteria for women. They're looking at, humor, personality, provider, leadership, all these other skills. It's actually a long set. And most of those things tend to skew towards older, more experienced, wiser men, right? So there's a lot of women who want to date older guys. There's not that many guys who want to date older women, unless it's just a fling type thing. But there are much older men, like maybe 10, 20 years older. Say you have a 40-year-old woman. She has a very good chance at meeting, I think, a 50-year-old, 55-year-old man.
Okay.
Well, I'm right in this category. I'm going to be 37 in about a week. So, and thanks. And dating. And a lot of my female friends are in that category too, from about 35 to 44, I'd say. And what I'm personally seeing is that there's a lot of women who have come out of long-term relationships in their early 30s and have learned a lot and have dived into self-development and learning about themselves and healing from really traumatic things. And there's not a lot of men doing that right now. And so what I'm seeing is these women are kind of leveling up and learning about themselves and healing and alchemizing their pain. And there's not many men doing that. And so they come out of their healing journey, or, you never really come out of it, but you come out and the other side, and you're really not willing to settle. So it's like kind of an invitation for these men to rise up a little bit more.
Okay, yeah, I get that. So, and this is fascinating. So I like this angle because we hadn't discussed it yet, which is, if I'm hearing you correctly, and please feel free to critique, that the reason the matchmakers are struggling is because the women have a higher standard and the matchmakers are not finding it as easy. Whereas if they're working with a 40-year-old guy, they can introduce him to a 25-year-old woman who has yet to do that work. Right. And the woman's like, this guy's successful and rich, I like him. Yeah. And the 45-year-old guy's like, I've done no work on myself and everyone loves me. Whereas on the flip side, you get that 45-year-old woman who's like, I've done the work, I make a lot of money and I'm this. And then they present him with a 45-year-old guy who's like, I'm not going to do any work, I'm just great. And then she's unhappy. And that makes sense. Okay, I like that angle. It's an angle I hadn't considered.
I want to hear from Roxanne, actually.
For it.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
Okay. So, because I think, like, what happens is these women come out of it and they've learned a lot about themselves and they're wanting depth. They're wanting self-awareness. They want self-responsibility in their man. And it's like not many people have reflected on themselves. They don't understand their patterns. They don't understand their habits. And they're kind of just going along with life. And I think it's really important for us to self-reflect, and we want that in a partner as we've done it ourselves.
Love that. Roxanne?
I'm looking for Roxanne because she dated older guys, younger guys, all over the place. So tell me your cougar stories.
I've dated a lot of successful older men as a younger woman, and at currently my age of 48. And I'm happy on my own, so I do want to find a forever partner, but I don't need one to be happy, and I'm fully able to take care of myself. So when I date someone, I find that the successful older men are more pushy. They're more try to have things their way, and have some really bad habits. Maybe like you said, they haven't worked on themselves or looked at themselves enough because they're used to everybody being like, oh, impressed by the things that they have to offer, where it's less appealing to me because I don't necessarily need it. And I also know, how that feels to be in those kinds of relationships. So that's a big turnoff for me. Younger men, I find, are maybe not as established. They're still on their career path, but I also feel like I've had good experiences with younger men.
Are they better in bed? We all want to know that.
Not always, no.
Really?
No,
Oh, no.
It's disappointing sometimes.
Gotta teach them a lot,
Some of them are great, but
I'm not judging you.
I need to know.
You can ask your questions. I'm not judging you.
I've never dated younger guys.
No, I don't think older men are better in bed either. I think
they out of breath.
Individual.
Do you get out of breath?
Older men,
No.
I mean, endurance level maybe a little lower.
It's not a problem.
For sure.
Because I will be sex. Oh my God.
Yeah, but
she's seen on
I
TV.
agree with what you're saying. Is that it's not that the choice isn't there. I mean, I have men of all ages ask me out all the time. And it's not. I don't feel like I'm too picky, but I do have boundaries, and I do, I can recognize when something's not the right fit, and I'm happy. So I'm less willing to settle for sure.
Yeah,
So.
I get it. If someone forced me to get a passport in a relationship,
Somebody forced you to do what?
to get a passport in my relationship.
Oh my God. Hey, I'm good. I'm mic'd up. Okay, so now this is what's fascinating. So, and I think it's important for everyone here to look at this. So, in a world where women are saying most men aren't good enough, and we also live in a world where there are more women than men, and we live in a world where many men are very happy to meet a woman who is younger but hasn't done the work, the pool of available men is not just less than women. The quality that women are looking for. I mean, you've got, based on that alone, you've got something like 10 women after every guy who's vaguely good, and probably 100 or a couple of hundred going after the best of the best. The guys at the peak of that there's no pressure on them to take any one woman, because they've got 199 others waiting. So for the guy at the top, he's actually de-incentivized to put any effort in, because he can just go to the next one and cycle through 200. So as a woman, and that's just math. So as a woman, based on that math, where do you feel you fit in that world?
Yeah, Layla, tell me.
Okay, I actually have a couple of thoughts on that. First of all, around the time I turned 25, I started actively not dating older men.
Long time ago or recently?
I'm 29.
Okay, cool. Sorry.
So around the time I turned 25, I started noticing just how kind of like gross the men who are older and who are dating younger women. I just kind of all of a sudden was like, wow, when you tell me I'm so mature for my age, that's super predatory. And I just, at that point, I started making an active effort to not date older, like so much older men, because I was like, by the time I'm 35, 40, I'm going to be dealing with the same problems that like these men are like essentially like using me for. And so if anything, I started antagonizing those older men, because I wanted to be like, I had some not so nice things to say to them. I feel like I've worked on that a little bit, being a little bit nicer. But they like, I agree with what you said. They're more pushy. They think they have more control, and I like to come in and be like, actually, no. I'm going to be the alpha here. You can get on board or get out. And I don't have problems dating like that. Like, I feel like
Are you still single though?
I just got out of a relationship. I did have a couple guys ask me to be exclusive this week, though, and I said no because I wasn't ready.
Gotcha.
But like, don't get me wrong, I'm not everybody's cup of tea by any means, but I think that, I don't know, I guess I struggle with like the dating standards. I think that older women dating younger men, that's how it was with my parents actually. My mom is older than my dad, and they always tell the story of my mom jumping into my dad's lap being like, hey, I want to get married and have kids, here's what I'm looking for right away, and then like 3 months later they were engaged, and today is their 31st wedding anniversary.
That is an alpha woman right there. She's like,
Yes.
by the way, you're getting married in 3 months. And the guy's like, oh, okay then.
Right?
Yes, ma'am.
Exactly. And so he was actually in his 20s and she was in her 30s, but I think that also just like age-wise, I'm noticing that men who are like a little bit younger have done the work more than the older guys.
I agree.
A lot of my male friends who are in their 20s and 30s are like actively interested in older women, because they're like, they've done the work. They're seeking them out because they have higher standards. So I think that I'm hoping, I mean, I'm not 35, so I can't really speak on that too much, but I'm hoping that we're moving in a different direction.
I think you just solved a business problem, actually. No, true story. And hear me out. Because the women are signing up for these matchmaking services, being like, I'm 40 years old, I'm looking for a guy who's 40 to 45. I actually think matchmaking companies, listen up, this is the model for you. I think they should be saying, what we're going to do is we're going to get a room of 20 young men who are 25 to 27 who are very in touch with themselves and trust us, date younger, you'll love it. And actually, it looks like that might work. And I don't think any of them are doing that. You're welcome, everyone who's watching.
I have a question. So when we've heard a number of women say this, and I kind of know what you guys mean, but when you say they've done the work, what do you guys mean by that?
Cosmetic surgery.
I mean, their eyebrows, you know? They get their eyebrows done.
So doing the work means that you understand the wounding that you got from childhood, whether it was your mom or your dad or being bullied or, you know, not getting picked last on your sports team. We all have different forms of like trauma. That's a really overused word, but we have different forms of things that have shaped who we are and how we function in the world and how we show up in relationship. So if we haven't really looked at ourselves, right? Like if we can't be self-aware of how we're functioning in the world and how we show up and our red flags, our green flags, everything that makes us us, our lightness and our darkness, then it's really hard for us to actually have deep intimacy with other people. So would you guys argue that having a therapist and going through therapy is a requirement for a guy to be dateable? I actually don't believe in talk therapy in that way, but I think there's a lot of I coach my clients around this, is like understanding their patterns in relationships and understanding themselves. But there's a lot of women's groups out there, there's men's groups now. There's places where we can go to like heal these things and alchemize so that we are showing up differently. Because I think what's going on is, if anyone's read the book Attachment, there's a lot of trauma bonds going on right now. And when you've done the work, meaning you've looked at yourself and you understand yourself, then you attract different types of people into your life.
And and this is fascinating. So you don't believe in talk therapy, but you believe in other types?
Yeah.
Which is, what would you say is the most effective way somebody could do the work?
I would say starting with like a men or women's group. And being in a space where you can be fully authentic and seen in your range.
Well, does it have to be segregated by sex then? Well, does it have to be segregated by sex? How can I join the men's group?
Well, you'd heal different things in different environments, right? So a lot of us as women, like, when you're in a relationship, what do you want most from a man? To be seen and heard. Is that fair to say?
What?
It's the number one thing. I think. You know,
What do you want from men in a
to
relationship?
respect my boundaries. Yeah.
Wakeboarding.
Wakeboarding? I agree, I'm with Scotty. I want wakeboarding.
Wakeboarding.
That's for women.
So we want adventurous people who see us and hear us, right? As women, we want to be fully seen in our range. So we want you to see our wild, we want you to see our sadness, our grief, our pain, our anger, but we have to trust you first for us to be able to show you that. And if you haven't done the work, you might not be a safe person to show that
Okay,
to.
so I want to challenge this, and here's why.
Okay.
If the most important things are to be seen and to be heard, how do they rank against hygiene, success, and the ability to adapt to ever-changing situations in the world?
I would like to answer that one.
Yeah, please.
Go ahead.
Okay, the most important thing to me, and yes, hygiene is super important, okay? Let's not get that mixed. But if someone does not respect my boundaries, then that's it. There is no relationship. I don't care how much money you have. I don't care how nice you are. If you cannot hear what I tell you that my boundaries are, then
Give me an example.
Vice versa.
Like, what was your important boundaries for you? Like, give me an example.
Like, if I say no to something, I don't want to be asked and pressured over and over and over again. If I say no, the answer is no. I mean, you can ask again, but I don't want to feel manipulated or made to, don't put your feelings on me. Respect my feelings. I do the same for, my partners. If they say, no, or whatever it is, if they say, I would like it if you would do this, or I prefer if you handle this situation differently. I respect that because that is, if you can't hear, and I think that's what she's saying about being heard, is a lot of people, you can talk straight to them and they just keep repeating the pattern over and over.
Yeah.
So what if your pattern doesn't match their pattern, right? You just
Then
walk
you're
away.
not right for each other.
Yeah, you just basically.
I mean, if you're married and you want to put more work in and do therapy, I think people can change. But especially like at my age, I mean, I'm happy to let people be who they are. I don't need to change for me.
Okay.
So there's a,
You know, so I move on or I stay and date while I'm enjoy it, you know.
So there's a situation going on the internet today. It's kind of going viral. There is a young lady that has put a guy on blast who found her profile on Bumble, I believe, worked out via reverse image search who she really is, then added her on social media, and then started messaging her on social media to date her, not via the app. And so this, she then shared this with the world after telling him what she thought of that. When he initially reached out, he didn't mention that's how he found her. He made it seem like he just randomly found her and then later on came clean. And then other women have come forward and said that this exact same guy has used this same technique. Because you put a picture of yourself on a dating site, you can absolutely reverse image search that and track down other instances of that picture online. And if that picture is also on your social media, oh yeah, someone can track you down, find you, get your personal address, and all sorts of wonderful things. I mean, this guy wasn't doing that. So the question is, obviously this guy just respected boundaries. I mean, there's no question about that. But knowing that there are men out there doing that, I mean, this guy actually reached out. How do you as a woman feel about the fact that somebody could be doing that and not messaging you and just following you on the internet stalking?
Best tip I will have, because we have one of those as well too. Just learn how to shoot guns and buy a lot of guns.
Learn how to shoot guns.
They will leave you alone. And take pictures of you with the guns. They will leave you alone.
Yeah, Scott.
Scotty, but you feel not safe on the internet?
Well, no, I do not feel safe on the internet. But doesn't every woman cyber stalk every potential
they do
mate?
it.
I mean,
I Google everyone before I go on a date.
Let's get in the microphone.
yeah.
They
So
wanna hear
I
you.
mean, is this a double standard? Because I mean, that's like 101. You know what you do as a woman. You have to find out who the guy is.
Yeah, I would say typically I Google someone before I go on a date with them. Secrets out. But for women, the number one thing is for us to feel safe. So
Guns make you safe.
Yeah, but I've been on some dates where I didn't feel safe either. So I mean, no. But no, seriously, it's a joke. I understand what you're saying. You have a much bigger safety concern than men do.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So it's interesting. I had a conversation with a guy I'm seeing yesterday about this. He's like, "Can you share your Instagram handle with me?" And I was like, "No, I don't want to, because then I feel like you're going to make up a story about who I am based on what I post on the internet, and you're not actually naturally getting to know me." So,
But don't you think that you're making up a story by Googling them and doing that as well too?
I think it's Oh, yes, I guess I am. Maybe a little bit of a double standard, but I mean, I've Googled people and seen that they had like felonies and stuff. So that's out of my range to feel safe to go out with somebody. So I think it's all in the purpose of what you're doing it for.
So and this is really important, because I like this because this goes back to that thing of equality. Is it equal for a man to be expected not to, and obviously this guy crossed the boundary, let's be very clear here.
Yeah.
This guy didn't just search for you on the internet to see if you're dangerous or learn about you.
Right.
This guy's messaging people, which is definitely a cross line. Is it acceptable for a man before a date, after, like, let's say you meet online, you meet on Bumble, Hinge, Tinder, whatever, you meet online, I think we've already established that as a woman you feel it's okay to track that guy down online and learn about him. Is it also okay for the guy to do the same thing?
Yeah.
But if he found your Instagram handle?
I mean, he can find my Instagram handle on his own.
But you won't give it to him.
But I'm not going to share that, because I feel like we've gotten so far from natural connection and natural communication. So you're gonna go on my Instagram handle, you're gonna find out that I'm an intimacy coach, you're gonna assume all these things, you're gonna see my post, you're gonna make up a story about who I am, and I'd rather you just ask me questions and get to know me naturally. So I feel like maybe it is a double standard that I'm...
Well, this is fascinating, because would you prefer that he asks you for your Instagram handle and you give it to him or say no, or that he just goes and finds you online anyway? Because he could do that.
Right. Well, I have a website. I've had people find me and they're, "Oh, I heard your podcast interview with so-and-so, and I learned a lot about what you do."
So
like, oh,
is your preference that they ask and they're upfront with it, and then you say yes or no, and either way they go and find you?
Right.
Or that they don't say anything and they just go and find you? Which of the two is better?
I guess my preference would be them asking permission and me giving it to them.
But you always say no.
I recently said no because
Okay,
we
got
have a
it.
date on set. It's the first time we're meeting, and I said, "Well, I'll give it to you after I have an impression of you in person."
So I'll tell you what, because I actually deal with this. I'm a really unique person to Google. You Google me, you're gonna learn a lot about me. So I actually have the same problem. So whenever I date somebody, like first of all, you'll find out
And
you'll find out I'm married.
coincidentally, there's 2 Adam Lionses in Austin too.
Yeah, we
which is
live in the
another
same town.
complications. You know,
Yeah.
Adam Lions entrepreneur in Austin as well too. Boy, that guys probably get a lot of like weird
I
confusions.
can
too.
only imagine the weird messages he gets. Speaking of which, other Adam Lyons in Austin, I just want to say thank you so much. I got invited onto a podcast the other day about business, and I get there, and apparently it was for you, not for me. But they ended up interviewing me anyway, so I appreciate you, because he's apparently really good at business too. So I appreciate that. That was a fun one, because they were like, "You work for this company, right?" I'm like, "Nope." You got the other guy, and I can only imagine that he went onto a podcast about dating. It's like, what is going on? Anyway, total to my point.
on that actually.
Actually, I want to hear that as well. So my phrase that I always say is, "Hey, just so we know, are we gonna cyberstalk each other, or are we gonna stay anonymous and get to know each other in person?"
I like that.
I like keeping it open-ended like that because I am totally worth cyberstalking.
Do you think those women are following that rule?
For me, it's irrelevant because what I'm doing is I'm pre-qualifying the relationship. I'm basically giving them permission to cyberstalk me, and I'm like, hey, if you want to, I'm cool with it. Just let me know if it's going both ways or not. And I'll tell them, I'm like, I'm totally worth cyberstalking, but the story's better if you hear it from me, and then I'll give you the links to the worst stuff anyway. And I like that phrase because they're normally like, no, let's get to know each other first, and then we'll meet up on the date. We'll get to know each other, and then they're like, yeah, I totally cyberstalked you. And I'm like, I knew you would.
Because I'm thinking every woman, what do you say that is going to be like immediately Adam Lyons?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what he was.
Let's make sure we hear, from you first, and then we'll.
I think there are a couple important things there is sexual assault and stalking. Whenever I go on a date, I am acutely aware of the statistics that I might be sexually assaulted on the date. My friends have my location. I tell them where I'm going. I send them pictures of the guy. My friends will often help me look because it's not safe. You know what I mean? You can compare and do you can try to compare it all you want, but the reality of the situation is, as men, it's kind of your responsibility to understand that women have a lot of fear going into that, and that's actually something I bring up right away. If guys talk about that, I'll be like, I jokingly will be like, I'm gonna look up your whole background, da 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 da. And what I've found is men will either immediately understand and respect it and be like, yes, that makes sense. I've heard this, da 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 da. So they'll either immediately respect it and I'll be like, okay, I can trust you. Or they'll fight it, at which point immediately unmatched. I'm not interested in talking to them because it's just look at the statistics. It's insane. I think it's the #1 cause of death for women is partner and or romantic murder. Women, no, I'm dead serious.
That's above heart disease.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the same. It's romantic murder,
Yeah, I don't think it's higher than heart disease.
Well, I wanted to say one more thing as well too, very fast. Screw living in fear. If you're scared to go on a date, get the atomic bear pen. And that way you can self-depend yourself, Living in
Great time
giving
for dating.
all your friends who you're going with whom, that's a lot of time. Grab this pen. That way if he tries something, you just pow!
This is why we
Murder,
are
romantic
sponsored
murder.
by the Atomic Bear. Go to theatomicbear.com/dating to get 20% off of your personal safety. I assure you that not only is this capable of smashing glass if you're trapped inside, but you can also insert these 3 spikes into delicate areas of somebody else and they will regret ever crossing you again. Ladies and gentlemen as well, this is the Atomic Bear Tactical Pen. Stay safe. Yeah,
Don't live in fear, Layla. It's okay.
sold.
You're safe. And you can sign papers and stuff.
Yeah, I want to say something about kind of the stuff that we talked about. We talked a little bit about, I guess maybe there's a little bit of a double standard there with looking up people. And I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about what we said before, which is you only want to date men who have done the work. And I think, I actually agree with you about,
still hang up on that one?
What?
You still hang up on that one?
Well, it's related to
Okay,
it's
all
related to the new thing. So when I hear a lot of people say that, I think that talk therapy isn't always good for, learning about how to be a good partner. I think it's good about learning how to be satisfying your own needs. But when I hear a lot of people say this, and I'm not saying anybody on this panel because I know a lot of you personally and I know a lot of you guys have worked on stuff, but that when I hear people say this, they know how to make themselves happy, but when I ask, okay, well, what do you bring to the table as a partner? I hear crickets a lot of times when I talk to women about this. And I think that, it's important to become not just someone who can satisfy your own needs and treat other people well, but also figure out what the other party wants, what's really important to them and what makes sense for them. Because as men, like you said, it's important for us to understand that the number one thing that women fear on a date is getting murdered. It's very different from a guy's experience. We worry about getting embarrassed, or she's not going to text us back, or maybe we take our pants off if she laughs or something. It's pretty hurtful. Don't want that to happen. So it's important to understand the other side too. I'm not, in therapy, I think some therapists are good, but I hear a lot of people saying that I've done the work, but really they've just kind of focused and talked about themselves a lot, and sometimes that doesn't make you a better partner. So some people have done it, but I think when you say done the work, I think people should be more specific that hey, we should learn about the other side too, and the example that you gave and previous ones as well too.
My biggest fear going on a date was never I was going to be murdered. Actually, in fact, old school, but I've never Googled anyone when I went on a date. I probably should have, but whatever, I never did. My biggest fear going on a date was a waste of fucking time. Tell you what, that's man, it's gonna be a loser, gonna waste my time or not, I'll see. Alright, waste of time, oh, gotta go, sorry buddy. That's my biggest fear, not being murdered. Like I said, I don't live in fear. And as far as them Googling me, I actually prefer if they did, that way they can fuck off earlier if they don't like me, you know what I mean? Because my life is I am who I am, unapologetically, right? Online, everything, if they Google me, great, I am who I am. And I'd prefer if they did it up front so they don't waste my time.
Well, I don't want to jinx things. I think one of my favorite stories about this woman is going back 4 months ago, I think, give or take. She was at a gas station late at night on her own.
Yes.
I wasn't there with her.
I'll tell the story,
yeah,
okay?
please, yeah.
So, women that being scared going on dates, okay, looking at you. Here's how you're not being scared going on dates. You just gotta go fucking crazy. So, we were driving home separately and we live deep down in the country, right? So I'm running out of gas. I know a big lit gas station that is the most best looking one in the area. I'm gonna pull up to that one even on the other side of the road. I still do. I park in the middle of the gas station, lit by everything, by myself, of course. Looking very hot because we're coming from an event basically, right? But by myself pumping my own gas. Surely there's a fucking truck pulls up, be like, hey, you're too pretty to pump gas over here by yourself, let me help you. I just turn around and be like, get the fuck out of here! They just drove off very fast. And that's how you make sure you don't get murdered.
She also
Harder
carries...
to do on a date, though.
Oh, no, not that hard at all. That's something that probably
for a restaurant?
What the fuck you just said to me?
I'm impressed.
The guy shows up, he said he was 6 feet, he shows up 5'10", immediately, get the fuck out of here!
I assure everyone, this young lady has no problem telling people what she thinks. She has a knife in the door of her car. She will straight up pick it up and lead with it as part of the aggression. Yeah.
And sometimes, again, when I was dating back in the day, right? I would assume some guys would run late because some of them are douchebags that I dated, who hasn't, right? I actually would bring a book on a date because I knew I would be waiting, so I would read a book. And by me sitting there reading a book, I'll get more dates by guys coming over to me like, oh wow, you're so pretty. And you're reading a book, you must be waiting for some. I'm like, oh my God, Don't waste my time.
Don't waste my time. Summer.
I just want to say, I really like what Lloyd just said over there. And I do know that it's a problem for guys who are not really improving. And that's one of the first things we teach is there's basically two things. Number one is these are what the categories that women are really looking for. And communication is one of those categories, right? You need to level up in those areas. If you want to find the type of person that you think you deserve, you need to be worthy of that person, right? And then the other thing we do is we go through an exercise of what are you really looking for? What are your hard yeses? What are your hard no's? What are your likes? What are your dislikes? To really figure out what's a deal breaker and what's not for you, right? Because everything you don't like can't be a deal breaker. There is no exact mirror of you or no exact perfect person. There's always going to be some compromise, and it's really important to figure out where can you compromise and where can you not compromise, right? And I think that's true for men and women. I think both men and women should go through that exercise.
Let's change it up a bit, because there's another phrase. I mentioned there was another phrase that I wanted to bring up that I think is really important. And while we're doing this, by the way, everyone who's watching live, if you have questions, please feel free to write them in the chat. We have a team standing by. They'll take care of those questions, save them, and make sure that we
Ask
answer
stupid
them.
questions, please.
So we'll do a Q&A section in a minute. But before we get there, I've got a controversial phrase that I want to say. Everyone looking at the internet, I truly believe this. There are no such thing as incels. Incels are known as people who identify as being involuntarily celibate. I do not believe that there are people on the planet who are involuntarily celibate. I believe there are people who choose to be celibate and want to blame others for that choice. And I'll show this in another way. It's like people that say they are involuntarily out of work. It's like, no, you could definitely work. You may not want the jobs. You may need to move to another area to get the job. You may need to improve your skill set to get a job. Now, you may not want to work at McDonald's, I get it, but there are jobs. Like, there are always jobs in another country, in another language. And I know this because I literally lived in Africa with factory workers who were making $15 a month. I was one of them, and they could find work. And if they can find work, somebody else can find work. Now, maybe the pay isn't good enough, and I understand that. You could be working. You can make a moral choice not to, but it's the same when it comes to celibacy, sex, dating. It's men that are identifying as involuntary celibate, by the way, just to be very, very clear. I'm not hearing women saying it. And the men that are stating that they're involuntary celibate, you're not doing the work. You're not putting the effort in. You're not becoming a nice person, because you know what I've never heard? I've never heard anyone say, I'm an incel and everyone thinks I'm great. I've never heard an incel turn around and be like, yeah, everyone thinks I'm lovely. I'm always the person that's at parties, like, preparing sandwiches for people. I work really hard on my career, but I'm involuntary celibate. No, you are angry, you are bitter, you have not done the work, you have a lot of trauma you need to process. So I'd love to hear what you guys think about that. And people on the internet, fight me.
I call them losers.
Yeah.
Well, I think it comes back to there's a movement right now of women aren't just sleeping with anybody. We have a standard for ourselves on who we're going to exchange energy with. And so, like, the men who are saying that they're involuntarily celibate, or what was it, voluntary celibate?
Involuntarily.
Involuntarily
Yeah,
celibate. Like, I think that they just need to step their game up. I mean, honestly, like, if you're taking care of your body and taking care of your mind and you're out in the world being active, you have your own life. You're not just sitting home playing video games. Like, it's also, what are the quality of these people? What are they doing? How are they showing up in the world?
She literally sits home playing video games all the time. It's like all she does. Like, it's really funny, but that's literally like hours every day. That's why I love her.
Yeah, I can speak about this a little bit. So this is kind of what I was saying at the beginning, where I was like, I think it takes a little bit more effort for the guy at the beginning. I think it does, with women demanding higher standards, it's like, that's all great, but like, I don't think they've ever been in a guy's shoes before. I don't think they've ever like walked outside and like know what it's like to feel like a predator and walk up and talk to a woman. I don't think they've ever done that. And these incels do feel like you're laughing, but like, they watch the internet all day and they hear all these like negative stories. No, but they think of themselves. A lot of them feel that way, and I know guys
They
because I
haven't
talk
talked to
to
me yet.
Well,
I make them feel not that way.
you would make them feel like the predator.
No, she's saying she would make them feel not like a predator.
Okay, well, yeah.
She will make it very clear they're not predators, is what she's saying.
I mean, if you've ever you've never done this in your life, every guy on this panel has done this, where you've accidentally walked behind a woman for a certain number of times, and you feel like you're stalking them, and you're like, oh god, she thinks I'm like following her, and I'm totally not. We're just heading to the same. It feels weird, okay? So putting yourself in another person's shoes and realizing that, like, okay, there are certain things that they have to get over, and that's what I've dedicated my entire life to do, to help people out like this that are doing this and that are having a tough time. And, you know, I think it's okay for us on the panel to be like, oh yeah, those guys just need to step up. But like, you know, let's have a little bit of compassion for them, because there are people out there that are like struggling, that are like having a tough time. And like, you know, as a woman, it's a little bit easier to go out and grab a date or just swipe on Tinder. But for most guys out there, you know, if they just log on Tinder, they don't get any matches. They don't get anybody who wants to go out on dates with them. And so it becomes difficult for them. They have to do more things. And I'm here to tell them exactly what those more things are so they can be successful. But it is more difficult. I think there's certain things that are harder being a guy in this society for sure.
But I think this is a key component. Most incels don't like dating coaches. They actually believe that what you do is wrong, doesn't work, and that you're a horrible person. So I love that you've got compassion for them.
Well, some do. I think we can convert them.
Well,
I'm optimistic.
Yeah, no, but and I think this is a key point. If they were open to doing the work, to listening to someone like you or you, Scott, they would be able to move ahead and actually do something about it. Because, you know, and I think this is a key component of just understanding life. Within reason, you can do anything. And I'll show you my point. You might not be able to become an NFL like all-star, but you can definitely go out there and play football. Like, you can play football, you can do it. And the more you do it, you can get better at it. Now, there are obviously going to be exceptions. There are going to be people that, you know, are physically incapable. Like if someone's in a coma, all right, fine, they're not going to be able to go and play football, right? But we're talking about a minor part of society. If you're largely physically healthy, if you are capable of, you know, to do basic things, you can do the things you want to do. You may not be in the top 1% in the world, but you can do the things you want to do. You can improve, get a better career, make more money. I actually loved it. You know, this event space is above a Dungeons and Dragons shop that I own. And yesterday, I was hanging out in the Dungeons and Dragons shop with a bunch of cool guys, as you get in a Dungeons and Dragons shop, you know, those kind of guys.
Cool guys.
Oh, you should hear the story.
Okay.
And there's this guy who has, for the last 9 years, worked at Walmart. And
so cool.
Watch this. And I wanted to buy a Nintendo Switch because I dropped mine down the stairs. I can be a klutz. And so I was talking about going to Best Buy to buy a Nintendo Switch. I promise you this is relevant to dating, especially with what you said about the Walmart guy. And the guy from Walmart says, you should go to Walmart. They will have the one you want in stock, and it will be a little bit cheaper because they always carry that one in stock. I know, I worked at Walmart for 9 years. I was like, oh, that's so cool. I appreciate the tip. This is why I hang out in a game store, to learn the cool places to buy video games. Thank you so much.
So happy we saved $50 there, huh?
I did. I saved $50.
Perfect.
And so then I said to the guy, you said you used to work at Walmart. What do you do now? And he goes, oh, I'm one of the head developers at Tesla. From Walmart, his next job was one of the top developers at Tesla in the R&D department. A huge jump up.
Not D&D department, R&D?
Not in the D&D department, although I'm sure they have one.
D&D department,
and I'm sure he's in charge of it. But what I love is that is a straight jump from Walmart employee to six-figure salary, on a path to options, complete career change. Like he's actually developing the Cybertruck right now and working on some new stuff for that, which is really cool. So, and I love it because when I'm first mentioning him, you're like, oh yeah, cool. But like, it's actually pretty cool, right?
I mean, sure.
Right? It's cool.
I prefer people working on for themselves, you know? It's way cooler. Because it's always cool to collect salary and have someone else tell you what to do, but you know what I mean?
But as a jump, like that's a 6 month like straight Walmart, Tesla.
How old is he though?
He's like late 20s, 28 maybe.
You must have been taking like programming classes or something.
That's exactly it. He was putting himself through school, which is what I mean about involuntary celibate, right? Like it's the people that are like, I'm stuck at Walmart working a dead end job. Like, I love this guy. I'm like, no, this guy is a classic example. He's working at Walmart while he's studying and doing all sorts of, and it's actually hardware, not software. So he works on the physical batteries, like electrician, I suppose. But I just thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
And any guy is a few decisions and a few actions away from being the guy that is not involuntarily celibate. Hence my point, you're not involuntarily celibate.
Wait.
You're lazy.
I just caught on this one. I'm so sorry. Slow. So involuntarily means it's not their fault. It means that they're blaming like,
you got
it's
it. Yeah.
Me by accident.
Yes,
So-
100%.
Oh, that's a whole new level of
Incels. It's a whole there's a movement. Like there's probably somebody right now writing a comment talking about how they are an incel and I'm wrong. I almost guarantee somebody's doing that right now.
So one of my favorite quotes from my self-development journey is, I am the problem and the solution to everything
I love
in
that.
my life.
Yes, I agree with that.
And I'll just leave it with that.
I love that. All right.
Roxanne, what do you think?
Oh, I agree. I agree with that 100%. It all starts with you. It's always an inside job in relationships and career. If you're not where you want to be, you have to look within yourself, because no one from the outside can fix it. It's whatever is holding you back is with you. So, yeah.
And I think one more thing is, like, we have Google and we have coaches and there's books out there. And if you really wanted to change your mentality around this, you could. There's plenty of books, like No More Mr. Nice Guy. For women, there's The Queen's Code. There's all of these resources that we have, and you can tap into. Instagram's free. You got all your free information. You're free. Like, there's things that you can do if you're willing to do it. And so, yeah, I just think it's sometimes a lack of effort. I do want to touch base on one thing that you said that I think as women we could do a lot better, is that when someone does hit on you that you're not into, appreciate them and acknowledge the courage that they had to come speak to you. So,
that's so
hey,
nice.
I really appreciate your taking time to come connect with me, and I'm a no, but thank you.
That's those women are the ones who get actually stalked
No,
afterwards.
so not someone that you get bad energy from. Like, you can tell the difference. You can tell if someone's being predatory or if they're just had to
your lady's nice.
get the courage to come speak to you. And I think as women, it's our responsibility to acknowledge when men do try and when they do have the courage to come talk to us. And in a lot of the books I've read, men are lacking from women appreciation and acknowledgement. And even the men that we don't want to move forward with deserve sometimes our appreciation and acknowledgement that they're trying.
So there's something to this which I think women do need to understand, because I've got a counterpoint to that, and I love that message, by the way. At my core, I love that message. I'm against it, and I'll explain why.
Let's hear the but.
Men are wired to perceive any friendliness from a woman as sexual interest. This is instinctive. So in the same way that women have an inherent fear of men have an instinctive belief that friendliness equals attraction. So if you let them down nicely, the average guy is gonna read that as try harder. And this is like instinctive. I know it sucks, because when they're conscious, their conscious self, they're saying, no one appreciates me. So women hear that as like, oh, I'll just appreciate them. But instinctively, they are absolutely wired to believe anything friendly is sexual interest. And that is because that is better for them as mate selection. So women and men have competitive advantages when it comes to sex. And it's really, really simple. As a woman, when you give birth, the child is yours. No question. Because it came from you.
Right.
The guy has no way of knowing instinctively. We can do DNA tests, that's not instinctive. There is no chemical way of the guy just, yep, that's my kid. So he's only got a few tools to ensure that his children make it into the world. Tool number one is jealousy and aggression. Basically, no other male can talk to you. I will control everything you do, and I will be the only one that sleeps with you. That's tool number one. This is like an instinctive
And I
tool.
will be out.
Right, but you gotta remember, but you're fighting an instinct. That would be like any guy being like, you're on your period, I'm out. You can't change your period, he can't change that instinct. It's who he is. And so it's tough. Every guy has to deal with that. And it doesn't matter how great you are, because the baby might not be yours. Then there's the second one, and then I do want to hear the counter. The second one is, the other chance for him to guarantee that he can get a child into the world is to assume that every positive interaction from a woman equals sex. Because that gives, if he assumes every positive interaction with a woman isn't sex, he won't procreate. So it is advantageous from a biological perspective for him to attempt with everyone. Those two things give him the best chance of success instinctively. So yeah, go for it.
No, so my question is, in order to, like, so how do you reject and not scream at the top of your lungs, fuck you.
So, in my opinion, the best rejection is going to be the most effective rejection, not the nicest rejection. Also, not a nasty rejection. So, the easiest thing, if you want to be nice, the easiest thing for a guy to hear is that you're dating somebody else. Because guys, because of the jealousy thing, they also instinctively back off. Most guys.
I would say that would make guys want you even more. But when you're unavailable, yeah.
No, it doesn't make guys want you more. Most guys do not want a woman that has been with another guy.
But then I feel like I'm lying, and so if I'm trying to be authentic.
Now that's a counter. But again, we went with nice, not authentic. So there is an alternative. If you want to be nice, because again, if you're like, oh, I really appreciate it, but you didn't really appreciate it, that's also not authentic.
I do it authentically.
Wait. So wait, I want to make sure I get my thread. So if you say to somebody, oh, thank you very much, I appreciate it, but you don't really appreciate it, that's not authentic as well. So there's a counter to that. The best authentic rejection is, right now, I'm not interested in dating. Thank you very much. You don't have to say you, just not interested in dating. Thank you very much. The end. And if the guy is like what, you're just saying no to me, then you go, just not interested at all. The end. Aww. There's no discussion. It's not personalized. It's you. It's just, I'm not interested in dating.
I mean, that's usually my reply. Thank you very much, but I'm not interested.
There you go. Boom.
Yeah, or I'm dating someone.
Yeah, I'm not interested.
And that can be kind. It can be, I appreciate the compliment, but I'm not interested and I'm seeing someone.
Yep.
You know, or if I'm not, I just say I'm not interested.
Yeah, and it really works because it just puts the guy firmly in his place, and it doesn't, his instincts don't kick in and be like, here's how to solve this.
And I can vouch for the friendly, the friendly, nice, too nice. No, definitely. I've had people just keep on and keep on and keep on, and in a creepy way. You know, after I've said no many times, and I realized it was because I was too nice when I said no. So they really don't hear the no. They hear the try harder.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, she likes me, but if I say the right thing or do the right thing or make the right offer, she's going to change her mind.
Yeah, I think, and it is hard, like, there is an instinctive difference between men and women. And, you know, we live in a world where we want to, like, again, equality comes up again, where we want to believe that men and women are the same. Men and women are just not the same, not in any way. And most women, because I like what you say about doing the work, most women do the work on themselves, this was to Lloyd's point, but have never done the work to understand men. They think they understand men because they apply the women's instinctive thing to a man and be like, a guy should be this way, as opposed to actually switching off who they are and being like, let me just learn about men. Like, what is there about men? So like, for example, the average guy needs to orgasm how many times a month for prostate health? Do you guys know?
30.
It's 28 to 30 times a month. The average guy must orgasm 28 to 30 times a month for prostate health, essentially once a day. If a guy doesn't orgasm, if a guy says he's not going to orgasm, do you women know what happens? If he's just like, I'm not going to do it, I'm going to mind over matter.
Voluntarily or involuntarily?
If a guy never has sex, never masturbates, chooses not to orgasm, as a woman, do you know what happens?
He turns into a woman?
You've got no microphone.
I'm talking to your microphone.
Okay. Just
So
make
he
sure.
turns into a woman?
Yeah, no, that's not what happens.
Okay.
So go for it. Do you guys have any idea?
He gets enlightened?
None of these things.
No, because there's a huge trend in semen retention right now. So I'm curious.
Cannot
what
retain
happens.
your semen, it leaks. It just comes out.
Yeah, that's why we have wet dreams.
Yep.
After about
So
2 weeks. Yeah.
the body has to remove the semen. Has to. This is to make this. And I want to make sure this point gets heard. To make this very, very clear, it would be the equivalent of saying to a woman, retain your urine. Just retain it. You just hold it in. Don't let it out. It's got to come out. It can't sit in the body. It is a fluid, and it has to go out to get a new fluid to go out. If you don't, it grows and grows and grows. It doesn't. Where's it going? It's not going anywhere. The body's still producing it. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Do you get bigger balls?
Actually, yes, and that's blue balls.
Oh.
When a woman's like, oh, this guy's got blue balls. No, this guy has a full bladder. Except it's his testicles. But that's, and again, most people don't even want to have this discussion. As a woman, you can choose not to orgasm. That's an option for you. As a male, it is not an option. It is the equivalent of saying, hold in your period, just don't bleed. it's impossible. Knowing this is just a biological fact. As a woman, when you're in a relationship with a guy, how do you feel about the male orgasm in the relationship?
Layla?
I don't really understand the question.
How do you feel
No
How do
problem.
I feel
orgasm in your
about it?
relationship? Yes.
So the
Good. It's apparently good for his health. I don't know.
I know, I love
I
it.
need you to be a little more specific.
So, and again, this is a very hot topic amongst men in men's groups. I like you mentioned men's groups earlier. A man is expected to help a woman in a relationship with her bodily needs. For example, hey, I need tampons. I need you to help me go get some tampons. Hey, that's a thing. We've got to keep tampons in the restaurant. We've got to do it. As a guy, he's got to orgasm every day. Are you making sure that there is a safe place for him to go and masturbate and relieve himself every day?
Yeah, I mean, I don't care if I'm not in the mood. Go take care of it yourself. Like, and vice versa too. Like, I'm capable. Like,
You're totally capable. He has to, which is the difference.
well, what I'm saying though is that if he wants to, he can ask me, like, are you in the mood? If I'm not, then he can go take care of it himself. There should be no issue with that.
Yeah.
There are plenty of options. You can use your hand. There's plenty of male sex toys. Yeah, like, I don't
And this is fascinating, which I love. I totally understand, because this is where it gets. But how actually comfortable would you be with giving him privacy so he can watch porn?
Yeah, I am 100% don't care. I've literally been like, no, I'm not in the mood, and he'll be like, okay, I'm gonna go masturbate in the other room. I'm like, cool.
Then
I 100% have no problem with that. I want to have my time to be able to masturbate by myself without him around, because that's my time. He can go have his time.
which is the next question: is that a healthy relationship where two people are staying in separate rooms, masturbating instead of connecting?
I mean, if I'm not in the mood, I'm not going to force myself to want to have sex. I think that
you shouldn't. I agree.
And vice versa. If I want to have sex and he's not interested, then absolutely. An unhealthy relationship would be me being like, okay, and not honoring my boundaries. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all.
Absolutely. And so this is the other, where I'm coming from is a lot of your phrasing, I don't know if you're aware, is I don't care, there's nothing wrong with it. None of it is encouraging.
I for sure encourage it.
So you'd be like,
I will buy sex toys. I will tell me.
Perfect.
If
I love that. Yep, great.
if you communicate with me and you tell me what you need, and I communicate with you and tell you what I need, it's like you said, they will either match up or they won't. And like I think it's important to spend time by yourself, getting in touch with yourself and your body. If you're just always with a partner, you're completely reliant on them. How are you going to discover about yourself?
next question, continuing on. He's got a good friend, someone he's known for a long time, beautiful woman, and she's like, I love sex every day. How about, I mean, your girlfriend's totally fine with you going doing it yourself. Let me just relieve you every day. We'll have sex, get each other off. How's that?
I mean, it just depends on the arrangement of your relationship. Some people are okay with it, some people aren't.
Nice. Okay, I like it. How about the rest of you guys? Because this is
This
a super hot topic.
Yeah, I was gonna like about the whole like I'm not in the mood thing. You know, like that's like I think that's a valid thing, but also too, it's like okay, well, what puts you in the mood? You know, that kind of stuff. So it's like asking a person like, you know, if my girlfriend. She's never said those words to me ever, but if
Obviously,
she did,
not for you.
Imaginary girlfriend or real one?
my real girlfriend
Okay,
that
gotcha.
does
Makes
exist, yes. So you know, if it's like you know maybe she's got a stomach ache or something like that, then okay, then you know there's not much
Then
that I
she
can
won't be
do
in
to
the mood?
help her with that. But if she's like stressed about work, or if she's like you know had a long day and somebody yelled at her, or she doesn't feel sexy, okay, what are the things that I can do to get her to that point, you know? So I think it's like when someone says, "Hey, I'm not in the mood," you know, that I think there can be a little bit of like work between the two where you can help each other get to a point where, okay, this person has a certain thing that they want. What can I do to get myself there? And you know, I think I encourage all my clients to, you know, figure out what makes her get in the mood and start doing those things regularly, so you don't get those kind of objections.
Yeah, that's.
So I have something controversial to say about this.
Yeah.
The woman's turn on is her responsibility, not her man's. So what I teach in my practice for
Say it one more
women-
time, I'm so sorry.
The turn on is the woman's like your turn on is your responsibility. It's not necessarily your man's responsibility
Makes
to
sense.
turn you on.
Yeah.
And you do that through having your own self-pleasure practice. I call it self-pleasure over masturbation. I just think it sounds better. And there's a buildup, right? So like Lloyd was saying, like there needs to be things in place that help with initiation. And I personally believe and have a little bit of traditional values around this is like, as a wife, it is your duty to make sure that your man's pleasure is a priority.
Yeah, I agree.
And so not that you force yourself, but not being in the mood, like there's other ways that you don't always have to have sex. There's plenty of other ways to satisfy your partner. And I wouldn't want my man going in another room watching porn when I'm available and my body is available and I could dance for him. Like there's so many things that you can do to turn on your partner and not have them go to watching other people have sex. So I think that if a woman has a healthy self-pleasure practice, it brings her into her turn on more. And then her man can play off that.
I'm curious what you think about that, because she's essentially saying that she'd prefer it if the guy is not doing it, but that the woman is responsible for that. I'm just curious.
I mean, I think it just comes down to your preference and what the arrangement of your relationship is. I don't think that like one is better than the other. If that's her preference, then heck yeah, she'll find a partner who aligns with that preference.
Perfect, I love it.
There's no right or wrong.
Not that I'm against masturbation by any means. If a man needs to do that and I'm sick or like I'm not available, right? I'm flying, I'm traveling or whatever, then that's great. But I want to be the source of his turn on.
I agree. I'm not able to make my kids dinner sometimes, but I gotta do it because I love them. You know what I mean? So I feel like
there's a reason I married you. Yeah.
Oh, I love you.
So I'm
here from Roxanne as well too.
Okay,
What's your stake?
Oh, I mean, I agree. I think my man's needs are really important. I do make them my top priority. I like to feel that that's reciprocated. I never, obviously, if I don't feel well, if I'm feeling sick, I don't want to feel forced. But I think it's really important that you meet your partner's needs in all different ways, sexually, emotionally, whatever it is, whatever that, and when they can't, when they're falling short, you feel that extra, we're talking a lot about equality and 50-50, but sometimes it's 80-20 or, 60-40. And so I kind of like to look at it that way and not keep score and tally up who's doing what. And sexually, I mean, yeah, I'm a highly sexual person, and so I very rarely say no. And if I do, there's a huge reason, So, and I think that builds intimacy and knowing that if somebody just needs to have an orgasm, I just need to come. I'm like, I got you right now. Go.
It's like 22 seconds. Do it twice. I know you want to say something, Scott. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm just curious what everyone else thinks about this, because I know, like, having been married for a long time, there were plenty of times I didn't want to have sex, and it was never because I didn't want to have sex. It was always because of some other problem in the relationship, right? Some unresolved issue that created distance between me and my ex-wife that just. It's like, I'm just not attracted to you, not physically in the moment, but because of some other thing that we haven't resolved, right? So I think it's a very deep thing. I don't think you need to go through hoops to arouse somebody when other things in your relationship are clicking. And so look at that. Like if your partner is turning you away consistently, there's some other issue that you need to resolve. And once you resolve that, I can guarantee you the sex will come back.
Yeah, the number one reason why relationships fall apart is a lack of sex. That is the reason. There might be other triggers.
Or sex with another person.
Well,
infidelity.
Sex with another person comes in after a lack of sex.
Okay.
There's nobody in the world that is like having a ton of sex with their partner every day, and they're like, by the way, I'm going to cheat on you. Like, if that happens, I guarantee you that is the minor, like 0.005% chance that happens. When two people are so into each other, there's no time to have sex with anyone else. Like, because you're just into each other all the time. And you're just constantly there. Like, as a guy, the guy can only orgasm so many times a day. If there's a woman, you keep him drained, he can't do I dated somebody once who literally was like, you're orgasming 4 times a day. That's a fact. And I would be made to orgasm 4 times a day. And she's like, go on a date if you want. I'm like, no, I'm good. She goes, I know. And that was was the relationship, and that was it. And I assure you, to this day, no one has ever cheated on that woman. No one has ever. She's just like very simple. She's like 2 orgasms before breakfast. He's like, what? And it's like, that's happening, and I'm gonna make you steak, right?
He's just like a raisin on the bed, just like.
Dude, no, just constantly, just like, oh, I'm really drained and tired. And she goes, good, how I like it. It's like, start your day. Like, I'll see you at lunch. You know, it's like, oh my God. Anyway, but that's the thing. And I think, because I like it when we talk about needs. If I sit down with a woman and say, what are your needs in a relationship? They're going to say, I like this, a guy that does the work, a guy that's done the work, a guy who's successful, a guy who supports me, a guy who listens to me, a guy who's there for my emotional needs, who I feel heard and I feel seen. If I say to a guy, what are your needs in a relationship? He's like, I need an orgasm every day. And so we've got 2 sets of needs. So if a woman can make a stance and say, these are the needs that I want, is the guy allowed to say that need?
Yeah.
And because I love your stance, because I actually think yours is the more common. On this panel it isn't, but in the real world I think more people believe like you, which is, if I don't want to do it, I'm not going to do it, understandably, because no one should ever be forced to do anything.
And on top of that, he better not be getting it from anywhere else.
Which is the other side of it. Because it's like, I'm not going to fulfill that need because I don't want to, and he's not allowed to get it anywhere else. But he had better show up for me, listen, and be there, and all the things I need. He doesn't get to tell me no. He doesn't get, when I've had a bad day and I come home and I'm upset, he doesn't get to say, hey honey, shh, indoor voice now. I get that you've had a bad day, but I'm watching football
really
right now, and this is my space. Go in your room and cry. Right? Like, that's unacceptable. You can't say that. And he can't say, I don't want to help with those needs today. You got that on your own. Like, that would be so bad. But the minute it comes sex, it's like, yep, go away. You know, that's for you to solve. And I think, and again, I know this is controversial and I understand, and I don't think anybody should do anything they don't want to do. And I don't just mean relationship, I mean in life. No one should make you do something you don't want to do, right? That's just a fact. Right. But there is a genuine belief by the majority of people on the planet that the male sexual needs are his to deal with. And a woman's needs in a relationship, a good guy would support them.
I have something to say around that in terms of masculine and feminine dynamic. Is a woman's in her wounded feminine if she wants to control her man and manipulate him, right? So if you're constantly saying no because you want to control when your man comes, then you're in your wounded feminine, and that's something that you really need to look at.
Well, what is a wounded feminine?
So wounded feminine is a woman who is controlling, who is manipulative, who has ill intentions, who comes from a victim mindset, who uses men, those kind of things.
What if a woman just isn't feeling it today? And every day?
Like, then the need, if the need is, well, every day, then you might want to find a new relationship. It might not be aligned for you, right? If you're constantly getting a no, that's probably not in alignment for you. But I would say to have a healthy intimacy and healthy sex life, you have to have healthy communication. So
I'm so sorry. I want to dive into that point because you brushed over it. And I think it's so key.
Yeah.
If a man and a woman are in a relationship, and typically the majority of the days the woman says no. She's like, I'm not interested today.
Yeah.
Who should find the new relationship? Both of them, or the man or the woman?
Whoever's unsatisfied.
So in that situation,
the other side is I work in women's health. So I do women's health and hormones outside of intimacy coaching. And sometimes there's actual reasons why someone doesn't have a sex drive. So actually I would start there, right?
Okay, this is so cool. And I love that you're an expert in that. How often does a standard, stereotypical woman with a healthy hormone balance want sex?
That would vary on the woman, but
roughly
a few times a week.
A few times a week.
Yeah.
So let's just say 3 times a week, and the guy wants 7 times a week.
Yeah.
How do we resolve that? The guy's like, I want sex every day. The woman's like, I want sex 3 times. I want 3 times a week. The other 4 days I don't want it. Do they stay together? Does the woman compromise? Does the guy compromise?
Well, let's look at, if we want to go on a scientific standpoint, a man's hormonal cycle is every 24 hours.
Yep.
Right? And a woman's cycle is every 28 days traditionally. So you have, and I'm teaching a class about this next week.
This is super cool, by the way. No, I love this. This is great.
I'm teaching a class for men about periods next week, all about this. But we have 4 phases, right? So the first phase is your period, and usually on your period you don't necessarily want to have sex because you're in hibernation mode, you're in isolation, you want to pull inward and look at yourself. Then you go into your follicular phase leading up to ovulation. Ovulation is when we're fertile. So we get really turned on because we're primal, and y'all can smell that, right? Your pheromones are running, and that's when men are like, oh, I need her. Like the primal nature comes out. And then you go into the last phase, which is the luteal phase that leads up to the period, and things start shifting again. So women's cycles are very different than the men's cycle. So when you're looking at this and you're in a relationship, for men to understand that is really important. But then to get your needs met, there's certain times where your woman is more available to please you in the ways that you want than other times. Mm-hmm. And so around ovulation and right before the period can be really high peak times for women. But you would have to understand your woman's body. You guys have to have deeper conversations around, this is my need, this is when I want it. Do I want it in the morning? Do I want it in the evening? Do I want it like quickie in the car? Like, it's about communication more than anything. And so to answer your question directly is coming up with a game plan. I have friends that schedule sex with their husbands.
I love that you said that. The standard, so I have a master's degree in psychology and business, and the standard stereotypical advice that you're going to get from a generic relationship counselor or sex counselor is going to be schedule intimacy time at least every day.
Yeah.
Intimacy doesn't have to be sex, but it does have to be physically intimate with each other's bodies. Even if that's just a massage, just an embrace, just a kiss. And most psychologists will agree that will lead to sex.
Love appointments.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that's pretty standard.
Who would have thought that making the couple have sex would increase sex?
Right. Well, if you don't
Well done, psychologists.
It's why I said it's very controversial to say this, because as a guy in a relationship, you cannot, must not, should not press your partner to have sex with you. You don't do it.
No.
And this is me saying that you don't do that. If you are unhappy with your intimacy, you should, must, can, and have to contact an expert, get them involved, so they can suggest best practices to resolve it. And I'm telling you that best practice 9 times out of 10 is going to be scheduled intimacy, which is what almost every guy wants anyway, because that is the need that is not being met. I'm never going to forget when I was learning dating, I wanted to learn it from the woman's point of view and the male point of view. So I joined a bunch of women's self-help forums. This was back like before Facebook, like when we were on the internet and forums. And I would just sit there and read all these stories. And one of my favorites.
Did you pretend to be a woman?
Absolutely not.
No.
I just had generic profile name and didn't say anything. But I would sit and read one of my favorite stories of this woman that was bragging about the fact that she would say no to her man. She'd be like, oh, Todd asked for sex again tonight, ha ha ha, put him in his place, that's what he gets. And she would brag about this often. And then after a few months, she wrote this whole post about how she found out he was cheating on her. And she was devastated. And then he was leaving her for the other woman. And she wrote this whole thing, I can't believe he did that, I treat him so well. And all the women were like, oh yeah, you were so good to him. I'm like, man, this dude had one need, and you made fun of him on the internet to strangers about his one need that he wanted, and he waited a really long time. And then I always think, like, that cheating happened, absolutely, but why didn't he just leave her straight away? Because he was hoping that she would fix it. Otherwise he would have just gone, but he waited and hung out. And I think, like, women need to be aware that this is going down. Like, guys' needs are not being met. While we are trying to hold them to a higher standard, they have to adopt this feminine energy, they have to do the work, they have to do all this psychological effort. As a woman, are you learning how to lap dance? Are you getting on a pole? Because, and I ain't joking, the number one thing a guy's gonna do when he's unhappy with a relationship is go to the strip club.
Yep.
He is gonna do that. He will find a reason to go. He will tell you he's going to a bar, or he's doing a guy's night, or he's just gonna watch the game, and he's gonna go to a strip club, and there will be a stripper dancing. And we have a lot of friends that are strippers, and the strippers will say, oh, absolutely, every guy in there is married, every guy in there is not getting laid, and every guy in there is paying me a lot of money to not cheat on his partner, because they want the sexual attention without cheating. And guys are spending thousands of dollars a month on that. So yeah, do the work. Both of you.
Oh, sorry.
I have one thing to say around that for the women is that is your wounded feminine when you are emasculating men by withholding sex. purposely withholding sex as punishment is like the worst thing that you can do to your partnership. So really looking at where that's coming from. And I think when you are in your wounded, you're not acknowledging what they are doing for you. You're not seeing how men are showing up for you. You're just always focused on where they're lacking and what they aren't doing, and then you punish them by taking away even more from them. And then you wonder why they're not staying.
Yeah, it's rough. Do we have a bunch of questions put aside? We do. How many questions do we have roughly, just so I know?
5.
We've got 5 questions. Excellent. So I'm aware that some people up here have a time limit, so they have to go.
Oh, okay.
So what I'd like to do is just get into some of those questions now. So let's hear the first question.
Should I use the mic or?
Yeah, if you can. Thanks, Lloyd.
Okay, so the first question is, who do you think has more sex in general, men or women?
Oh, that's a good question. What do you guys think? Who has more sex, men or women?
If you're talking about straight guys, it's different. But if you include gay men to the mix, gay men are way outperforming everybody else. They're killing it. They're destroying all of us. They're putting us to shame.
I literally was in Beverly Hills, and I was looking for a restroom, and I looked around twice and accidentally made eye contact with a dude. Was like, oops, and then went to a restroom, only to find out the guy had followed me into the restroom, and he looked down at my dick and was like, nice dick. And I was like, my girlfriend thinks so. And then I kept peeing and then left. And I was like, gay guys will put effort in.
No shame.
Talking about stalk a person, like, I was like, this is a very uncomfortable feeling right now. That amount of effort. And I'm like, if a gay guy will do that, I now know what women have to deal with.
But I think we need to understand the question, right? Because if the question is, are more men having sex or are more women having sex? I think it's more women are having sex, right?
Yeah,
with fewer
according to
guys.
the stats,
with
yeah.
fewer guys, right? Certain guys are having a lot of sex with a lot of women, and a lot of guys are not having sex very often. And women, it's just women. You walk outside, you can have sex if you want to.
I think the scale probably
it's
goes.
not hard.
I think the scale probably goes like this, and I think you guys will agree. There is a small percentage of men that are having more sex than anyone. Then the majority of women are getting as much sex as they want. And then the larger portion of men are not getting as much sex as they want. And that's probably what's going on. There is this tiny subset of guys that have all the sex they could ever want and then some.
Yeah, I think according to the stats, it's like the bottom 30% of men, which is it's actually growing. So bottom 30% of men are not having as much sex as they want, and by not having as much sex as they want, they're having no sex at all. They did a study where it was like, a third of men between the ages of 18 to 30, and the reason why they did 18 to 30 is because it's technically not legal to have consent. They have not had sex in the last year and have had no sexual partners in their life. Yeah, it's a growing number. Yeah,
But I think it depends on, and I'd like to hear from the women on this, because there are women who are not having sex, who want sex, but they're not finding the partner they want the sex with, right? So some women, if they really, really want it, they'll go find someone, and they can, absolutely. But a lot of women don't necessarily need it that day, right? They will want it with the right guy. So it's a weird gray area, I think, as far as how many women are having as much sex as they really want.
I got a fun one. On the count of 3, raise your hand if you are having as much sex as you want. Right now. 1, 2, 3. All right, that's interesting. Okay, and I think that's. I think we won't go into that. I think it's just fascinating to see what's
No, let's
happening.
go into that.
Well, no, we only got so much time. We've got 5 questions to get
details.
through. Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. Yeah, and you said you're in a new relationship, just started, right?
No,
Is that-
I'm not in a
you
relationship. I'm dating.
You're dating. That's
Yeah.
it. Guys, you know, step it up. This young lady here. Okay, next question. Oh yeah. Let's keep that one there, and we'll use this one for.
Okay. Could part of the problem with women not wanting sex be that the man is not taking care of her needs?
I definitely think that one of the main reasons that women aren't interested in sex with a guy, if they're in a relationship, is that the guy is failing to meet certain needs. I don't think it's the only reason. I think it's a better way to word it that overall she has needs not being met, and it may not be on the guy to meet those needs. And actually, I think a problem in a relationship is when a woman's needs aren't being met, that the guy is not in control of, and she is taking it out on the guy. And I'm not saying by withholding sex, I'm just saying like for example, let's just say that a woman isn't being valued at work, and she comes home every night stressed about that. that's going to bleed into the relationship. Now, the guy can't do anything. He can't phone up the boss and be like, yo, listen, buddy, right? He might want to, but he can't. So her needs aren't being met. It's not for him to fix it, but it is going to have an impact on their love life. Like, you know, her boss. And most guys, by the way, will view that as her boss being in the bedroom. True story. Because they will believe that their sex life is now being controlled by another man. And this can actually cause relationship issues. And again, it's just something, I like saying it because most women don't even know that's a thing, but like that is gonna, the guy is gonna feel that, and women are like, why are you making my job problem your problem? And the guy's like, because I don't want to say that I'm feeling emasculated by the fact that your boss is affecting my sex life.
Well, there's a saying I once heard, and that was, where this and this go, this will follow. Oh. So that speaks to the importance of, yes, we have to satisfy each other's sexual needs, but you also have to, you know, meet your mental and emotional needs, and then that is usually where sex follows. So whether it is a hard day at work, if you're still showing up for your partner to try to ease those burdens in some way, whether it's just making their day easier once they get home or whatever, then yeah, I think sex just follows. You know, and definitely when that's not being met, that's the first thing for me that leaves, is the desire to have sex.
Love that. All right, very, very cool. Let's do the next question.
Is marriage still a necessary institution, or is it outdated?
Is marriage still a necessary institution? So I'm going to answer this because we got married. We got married in the last month.
I have an answers for this.
As my wife, please go first. I know my place.
It's still necessary. You can have a marriage without being married, actually.
That's so fascinating.
Yeah.
I feel the exact opposite.
Really?
I believe it is a necessary institution that no one has to follow. No, and I love that. I love that because, and here's why. And I'm being more to the letter of the law. I believe that we have legal structures in Western society that give a benefit to married couples in certain situations.
Correct.
And because of that, the institution is necessary to enable people to gain the benefit of those governmental, taxable, and financial institutions. Is it from a societal perspective needed, like from an emotional point of view? No. Like, I don't. I agree with that.
I still think it's not necessary either, even from those benefits as well too, right? Like there's many other different ways you can do those benefits as well too, right? So again, fun fact, when we decided to get married, before I actually decided to actually have a wedding, I'm like, wait a second, hold on, let me call I called Scotty, I think. I called lawyers, I called CPAs, I called, like all the trust and funds. I'm like, hey, is it gonna benefit me or not, right? Like, let's discuss that, like, I'll make sure we don't pay more in taxes or anything too, so. I don't think it's necessary. I think you can have a marriage without being, actually married. Show up for your partner, have a securities with your partner, have a big trust, between each other, not like a trust fund, but between each other, everything else will follow, basically, right? All of the benefits that marriage gives you, don't get married for that. You know what I mean? Like, you can make those benefits anyway. There's benefits of not being married sometimes too, like when you have like separate, credits, and you can buy more assets and stuff too, basically, so.
Anyone else? You want to weigh in on this?
Yeah, I would say we lived as a species a lot longer without marriage than with marriage, and we still got here, right? But for whatever reason, whether it's church, state, control, whatever you want to think, marriage came along, and the tax code is absolutely designed to encourage marriage, especially on death, right? Like all the assets transferred tax-free, otherwise there's a huge tax. But there are some detriments as well. For me personally, I think you just have to be very, very careful about it and think it through, and don't let anyone else pressure you into doing it. Right? That's most people get married, and I was guilty of this as well because it was that time, and everyone expected me to. All my friends were already married. It reached a certain age. Oh, might as well marry the girl I'm dating. Right? Bad.
I actually love this. In general, my number one dating advice for everyone is don't chase milestones in a relationship, because it goes like this: we meet. Now we're dating, now we're living together, now we're engaged, now we're married, now we have kids. What comes next?
Divorce.
Don't chase milestones. Don't chase milestones. Like, just let them be. We took 10 years of dating together before we got married because we ain't chasing milestones.
And we didn't follow those orders.
Nope, we got the kids early. I'm like, let's mess all these milestones up so the D1 stays well away. Like, just do not chase milestones. Don't do it in order, because that's when things go wrong. Next question.
Next question is, can you truly love more than one person at the same time?
So I'm going to answer this emphatically, because I have at different periods of my life been polyamorous and monogamous. And I've got to a point where once I crossed 30, I recognized that it's not a choice of how I want to live. I just am polyamorous. Like, it is who I am. There is nothing I can do about it. And it's very, very simple. I definitely love multiple people at the same time. And I will summarize it for you. I want you to imagine that you have 2 dogs. Which one do you love and which one do you not love? Not which one do you love more, which one do you not love? Because if you are capable of loving 2 dogs, and you are capable of loving 2 pairs of shoes, and you are capable of loving 2 children, and you are capable of loving 2 of anything else in the world, you can also love 2 people, or 3 people, or 5 people, or 10 people, or however it is. And the reason we know this, just for a fact, is because we have already identified what love is. And love is not an emotion. I'm going to show you an experiment. I'm going to prove that love isn't an emotion. You guys want to play a game with me? I would like everyone at the same time to show the emotion of happiness. Okay? Right, you get this.
Lloyd.
It's great. And I would love everyone to show the emotion of sadness. We all instinctively, we can go to tribes in Papua New Guinea. Here we go. And now everyone show the emotion of love. Uh-oh. Because it doesn't exist. There is no emotion of love. There is no such thing. There is only a chemical known as oxytocin. And the chemical of oxytocin is the love chemical. And 100% that chemical can be triggered by multiple people. It can be triggered in multiple ways. And therefore, chemically, love is capable to be given to multiple people. That doesn't mean monogamy doesn't exist. If you want monogamy, you can have it. But it is a choice. You are choosing to love one person only, and you are saying, I will refrain from getting oxytocin from anybody else. As a human being, you should be aware, oxytocin is delivered by physical touch, laughter, good conversation, and sex. So if you are saying, we are monogamous, you better kill all friendships with people from the opposite sex, make sure nobody else makes you laugh, and you have no good conversation with anyone else. Otherwise, you are triggering an oxytocin source in another person, and your body chemically will fall in love even if you don't have sex. At that point, choosing not to have sex with somebody, at what point did you decide where cheating kicked in? Because almost everyone will agree that the emotional cheating happens first, and the emotional cheating is triggered by good conversation and laughter. And you just ask yourself, forget sex. If your partner spent the majority of his time out with another woman, they never had sex, but she made him laugh every day, they were laughing and giggling, and she high-fived him all the time, and he didn't have time to come and hang out with you for dinner because he was hanging out with his best friend from childhood, and they were laughing and giggling every day, you'd get jealous. And as a guy, exactly the same thing. You would get jealous. You're jealous of someone who isn't technically cheating, but they are because they are oxytocin cheating. And oxytocin is a slippery slope. The minute you find somebody that makes you laugh and giggle and you're having the best conversations ever with them, you're gonna go down that route whether you like it or not. So that's my answer. Fight me, go for it. Disagree, if anyone wants to.
I just think where I'm at in my dating life and where a lot of my friends are at is that they want the commitment. They want to be chosen. They want to be monogamous, and they want a husband and to create a traditional family dynamic. So, that's just where I'm at and where a lot of women in my life are at.
And I love that, and that's choice, and that's totally great. And I know a lot of guys that are like, this is what I want. Like, there are a lot of guys that like, I cannot handle 2 women. I don't want another woman in my life. Like, this is what I'm about. I am well aware the amount of ADHD that I have, the amount of desire I have to talk to people and communicate. This poor woman, if she had to fulfill the amount of conversation that I want, like already, like I drive her nuts. Like I walk into her office and she's just like, what now? Like, and I'm like, no, but I just saw this thing.
Boy, I was recording SOP with my staff members. You know what I mean? Like, it was just very awkward.
Or you're like, I'm trying to sleep. I'm like, but it's 5 a.m. Let me tell you. Like, it's constant. Like, it's constant. Like, that's how I am. That's as a person. And I'm aware that if I date just one person, I spend something like 6 hours a day waiting for them. I just sit there being like, where are they? Like, I'm just excited to come and talk to them again. And so that I found that's a solution for me, but it isn't for everyone. Like there are guys that is pure hell, and they're like, barely handle one woman, I don't want to handle two. And I think that's why it's important for people to choose.
Yeah, I guess what comes up for me around that is like, can you really go deep? It's hard to go deep with one person through their phases of life. How do you go deep with multiple people through phases of life?
Practice, effort, caring, like being there for people when they're needed, like really understanding and going deep. I mean, like I've absolutely done the work and gone through therapy with two women at the same time on multiple occasions throughout my life, and shown up for them exactly during those times. But you know what does get sacrificed? I have no idea about any sports teams. No idea at all. I'm not up to date with TV shows or movies. I barely play video games. Like I said, she totally plays. I barely play. I'm playing at the moment because we're both playing Zelda right now. But typically, I don't really play video games. I've sacrificed other things to show up for my relationships because that's the most important thing to me. Like I value the physical human connection and the oxytocin release I get from the people I'm dating above all these other things that most people would consider important.
Yeah, so it sounds like, we can love multiple people, but it's the time commitment. It's the how much time are you willing to put in? Because
that's an experience.
Most people don't have enough time to dedicate to multiple people.
Yeah.
All right, final question.
Final question. We keep getting more online now, but we're going to do the last one.
Well, actually, we'll keep going. You've got the time constraint, right, specifically? Yeah, no, that's okay. That's okay. So we're gonna say goodbye to our wonderful guest here. So Roxanne, thank you. I know you got an appointment. Thank you so much for turning up. Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. A pleasure. I'm just gonna sit across two chairs, just so it doesn't look too weird. Trust me.
That's not weird at all.
Is this not weird? How does this look?
We could all just scoot down.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, no, because the way the camera's working, that doesn't really work. See? Well, look.
What was the question?
The question is, how much does age matter in a relationship?
Oh, okay. So, statistically, if you're going by evolutionary psychology and what the stats are, women tend to prefer men just slightly older than them. I think it's like two to 3 years or something like that. That's the average. But yeah, I've seen a whole different combinations, and we have people here who have dated people of all ages. When I was in my early 20s, I dated some women that were in their early 30s, and me personally, I actually learned a lot from that because I was super immature at that time. So I learned a lot. I got a lot out of that relationship. If we're talking about a marriage, though, I don't think it would have worked out at all, and I think that would have been a tough situation to navigate. I think it's the same way for most men. So I think the best age is probably like a somewhat of an age difference with the man being slightly older.
When I was 18, I dated a woman who was 38. Woo. She was actually. She was
a big sex from her.
She was. We'll get there. She was a princess. Her family were royalty in a small country somewhere else. She's a family friend. It's very complicated. I won't. Don't worry about those details. The more important details is she was very successful. She had a lot of money. She had a penthouse apartment on Regent's Park. I was a janitor, but I was a janitor for a multi-million-dollar property. So we kind of became friends because I would sit and listen to her dating problems, realistically, is what happened. And one day a guy dumped her. And so she contacted me and was like, hey, I'm really down. Can I talk about it? And I always listened to her. I was like, absolutely. I'm watching, I forget what I was watching a TV show. I was going to come over and watch it. And she went, sure. And so I'm sitting in my tiny little apartment with this princess who's ridiculously wealthy and successful. And she's asking me dating advice. And I was like, if I were you, I would just, find a guy and have sex with him just to get over it, And I was genuinely giving advice. Like, I was not anticipating anything happening. And she goes, who? I was like, I don't know, someone you trust, someone that you can open up to that definitely won't lead into a relationship. Just like some random
18-year-old.
Some random guy, yeah. And she turns around and goes, like you? And I'm like, because I was so nervous. I was like, I suppose so. And so we ended up having sex. And what was fascinating about that is the next day, she said to me, can we talk? And I was like, oh my God, yeah, what's wrong? And she goes, you're really bad in bed. And I was like, oh. And she's like, yeah, and she was like, I wouldn't say this so often, but really bad. It was just not good. And I just feel you should know that. And the first thought that went through my mind is, no wonder he left her. No, I was like, oh. And so I said to her, what should I do better? And she went, I have no advice for you. It was bad. And yeah, so anyway, so that was one of my first sexual experiences.
Oh my God, that's horrible.
That's traumatizing.
Sorry, I cannot help you.
It's like
This can't be fixed.
and so I like telling the full version of the story because otherwise everyone's like, see, you were good with women back then. No, I wasn't. I was friends with her for 4 years before that happened, like, because my dad was a janitor at the same building, like, so she knew me as a kid. Fun fact, I will share this. Once I got good at dating, and I suppose I got somewhat better in bed, I bumped into her again. And I turned around to her and I said, hey, I just want to let you know that when I was 18, what you said to me was really profound. And I really went away and decided to get really good in bed. In fact, now I'm so good in bed, most women say I'm the best they've ever had. And she's like, I find that really hard to believe that you've had that, like, just genuinely. And I was like, no, seriously, like, most women, they say that they experience full body orgasms with me multiple times. I'm really proud of how good I am in bed. And she's like, it feels like you're bragging to me at this point. I was like, no, these are just facts. It's just like you said to me, it's just a fact I'm bad. It's just a fact I'm really, really good. Anyway, a few hours later, we're in bed and having sex. And it was, the full story is she actually said, okay, you did get much better. But I love that because, you know, as a guy, can you hear that kind of feedback and take it? But I think it's the only kind of honesty you're gonna get from an older woman. And I think as a guy, I 100% believe that when you're younger, you shouldn't be looking at, like, if you're in your 18 to 25, I genuinely don't believe you should be dating women that are 18 to 25. I think find yourself a woman who's in her late 30s or older, and I think you should learn how to pleasure a woman, how to listen to real needs with a woman that's not, that has done the work, that is emotionally mature, that knows how to give you feedback and tell you, yeah, you suck and you need to do something about that. Because I truly believe if I hadn't had her say that to me at 18, I may have made the mistake of thinking, wow, I banged a princess, I'm the best. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, that could have been the story. Instead, she made it very clear I was a nobody.
Yeah, they actually have that in a lot of cultures. They have, well, this is historically speaking, in tribal societies, they would have like a priestess or someone there that would like educate the young boys, and she would have sex with them. That was her job, was to educate all of the young boys, teach them how to satisfy a woman, teach them to be more mature, and they came out of it being a lot more confident. And we don't have that in our society anymore, and now we have school shooters.
There's a woman in Austin that does
that escalated quickly.
I'm gonna get this feedback versus like ghosting, not calling, right? At least I know what to work on.
Exactly.
Like,
No, I think it. I said that as a joke, but like I think it actually does some good things, and the guys get more confident afterwards. It's very interesting.
So we have a question right here. Can we get the microphone across to one of the audience members?
Well, so I gotta ask it now because I wanted to, and then you touched on that topic. I was gonna ask if you guys, because from my 20s,
that's the question.
I believe this. I believe guys in their 20s should date older women, and older women should date, at least try it out. And I think it's a magical spot, and it accomplishes a lot. So I was gonna ask if you guys thought it, and then say why. I think that's a good idea, but it sounds like you guys kind of agree.
What's the question?
Is that like a really good? Should men in their 20s date older, and is there a benefit for the women to do the same?
He wants to know if he did right by dating older women.
No, I mean more like, is that a magic, like, is there some chemistry there in it? Like, does it work well? Because it seems to be like a really good, we've all heard of the older man dating the younger woman, but I think the young man dating the older woman is something really good that nobody talks about.
Yeah, I think it's a great learning experience for the guy, you know, and like typically men in their early 20s are around 18, they don't know anything, they're not mature, and they're usually not that attractive to the women who are around 18 to 20, you know, they have a tough time, and so I think it's a great opportunity for them to learn. Is it good for like a marriage? Probably not.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's
get the mic back to the questions. Anyone else? Yeah, please.
Okay, so I'm so sorry that happened to you because I know you can joke all you want, but that's like actually a really traumatic experience to have someone say something like that because it's just unkind. You know what I mean? It's like, I call it whatever you want, but that's just not a nice thing to say someone at like the basic level. And I think that's like, because some people just don't mesh. Like, I'm a big believer in not saying like, oh, so-and-so is bad in bed, because that's just like unkind. And it might not be true for someone else. Like, just because the thing that frustrates me about that, because I actually know a fair amount of men who have slept with older women when they were younger and kind of didn't understand that it was like statutory rape. And so they have a lot of trauma moving on. And this is actually something I've heard from like quite a few men. And it honestly just makes me so sad for them because it's not really being talked about that like this is like, it's predatory when there's a young person and there's someone who's so much older than them, like, yes, you hear like, oh, props to him, da 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 da, but like, and I can't speak to like older, but what I'm saying is mainly like 18 and under. I just like that sort of age difference. There's such a significant power difference. Like that 38-year-old woman, she would not have said that to another 38-year-old. She said that because there was a significant power dynamic difference. And when you abuse that, it's just, it's not okay. And like, sincerely, I'm really sorry that someone said that to you because
Thank you.
Spin it however you want, joke about it however, but that is unkind and that sort of thing leaves a like traumatic response. And I'm pretty sure there's like a How I Met Your Mother episode on this. Like, I'm dead serious. We're like, yes, we're Barney, who's this like, and he's like, oh, I've slept with like hundreds and hundreds of women, and like because you said I was so bad, like that's a trauma response.
That's weird because I've slept with over 1,000 women.
Well then,
but that's just coincidence. Yeah. You know how many times I've been called body sensitive in my life? Like a lot. But yeah, that's really funny. I didn't know. I haven't watched the show, which is I don't know the references. There we go.
Yeah, I know this isn't what you were saying, but I just want to say, communication on whether it was good or bad is super important, right? It's how you package it, because and my view is people in this, women especially, but guys to a degree, we're not all the same. We're not monolithic. What works for you doesn't work for you, doesn't work for you, et cetera, right? So I always say that the most important sex organ is your ears and your mouth, right? Listen, communicate, talk. And if you don't have those conversations, you might get really lucky and have that person who just blows you out of the water the first time. But you need to understand that was luck, right? You can actually train a great partner, and you can be trained as a great partner.
I love that you clarified listen, because for a moment I was like, what? I was going there.
The other orifice?
Yeah,
What? Yeah.
My ADHD was going, how is that a thing? Which is, please, yes.
Yeah, so in my work, one thing I teach about is a conscious sex conversation. And so before you're going to sleep with someone, there's certain dynamics that you go into and talk about desires and boundaries and protection. And there's something really important that a lot of people don't practice, and it's called aftercare. And so after you've had a sexual experience with someone, inviting them to give you feedback and appreciation and sharing frames of how that experience was for you can be really powerful, and it's with consent. So that's something I teach about, but aftercare can really help even the playing field, and you are open to feedback, your partner's open to feedback, and you know that you're coming from an intentional place of like, we want to get this better.
I love that, by the way. And I do want to add this, for those of you guys that are watching, if you are interested in what we do when it comes to dating, just check out askthedatingcoach.com. If you fill in any of the forms there, we actually have a live audience, and you can reach out to us and we can see about getting you a ticket so you can come and sit here and watch live. It's free to be in the audience. We just have to vet you to make sure that you're not anyone related to me. So let's do the next question.
The next one is, what are the top 5 indicators of the wounded feminine in dating?
What are the top 5 indicators of the wounded feminine in dating? While you answer, I'm going to use the restroom because I need to pee.
A victim mentality. So they come off as like, poor me, life is always happening to me. Man's like hating men, right? Emasculating heavily or gossiping about men, putting them down, gossiping about women. What else? Very manipulative and controlling. And you can tell that she's in her wounded feminine because she actually comes off very masculine. Like, I don't need a man. I don't need anybody. I can handle life all by myself.
What do you mean by wounded feminine? I've never heard that term before. What is this?
So what can cause the wounded feminine is like having a tough relationship with your father, or having
Oh, we're going there. Okay.
Having an experience as a kid, like a sexual experience that you didn't consent to. Let's see, what else? Having...
It's basically a trauma about being a woman? Like, I don't get it.
So
you know?
wounded feminine is like when you're not in your healthy expression as a woman. Like you feel like you have to manipulate and control your environment because you don't feel safe. You feel like you have to like show up different than you are. You feel like you have to, like the world is against you. You kind of come from this very victim state. So like, I'll give an example. I was in a mentally abusive relationship for 7 years. And when I got out of that, I was really like, oh my God, like, why did this happen to me? Why is this going on? Like, and I just was like, fuck men. Like, I hate them and I hate that this happened to me and I hate like what part of me called this in, kind of. Like, I was just very in my victim. And then after that, like, I got to the point where after doing a lot of work on myself and hiring coaches and therapists and different people to work with, I came to the other side of just like how much I needed to learn from that experience. And I took on of like, life is always happening for me. And so with the feminine, like you always want to look at when you're ready. There's actual genuine trauma too. I want to say that. There's genuine trauma that can cause us to be messed up, can cause us to have really a lot of issues around men. So I don't want to overlook that. But there's a point of you taking responsibility for your life and everything that happened in it and alchemizing that. And that's when you step into your powerful, like, maiden, right? Your powerful woman. And this is a whole different conversation. There's a lot to this. There's archetypes. There's different levels to the feminine.
Very cool.
And stuff that I teach about. But yeah.
If people want to find out about it, by the way, where do they go? Just to close the open loop on if they want to learn more about this from you.
If you want to learn more about it from me, the best place is find me on Instagram, Courtney. COURTNEY .Jean JEAN.Titus TITUS.
Courtney Jean Titus.
Courtney Jean Titus.
Amazing.
Sounds a lot of Instagram except men dating, basically, right?
Yeah. Well, I talk about women's health. I talk about dating and the wounded feminine and healthy feminine, and the wounded masculine and the healthy masculine.
I love it. Next question.
And this is the final question. How does dating in a small town differ from city dating? How can you make it work?
Oh my God. Who asked this question?
This is the label.
Okay.
3 S's and 3 Z's.
Oh, I know that guy.
Yeah.
I know you.
Yeah, so we're actually in a small town right now. What is Bastrop? 10,000?
19,000 at the moment.
Damn, it's going fast.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what she said. Oh, it's a good job, right?
So, I mean, dating in a small town, your reputation is going to be really important. I actually think it's better to go and find like a wife or someone like a long-term partner in a small town. Cities, everyone's distracted by trying to find the next best thing. So it's not bad for that. But yeah, your reputation does matter in a small town. And I would recommend playing the long game as opposed to like doing the classic like pickup tactics to try and meet women, because that generally doesn't work well in a small town, because people talk and then you might approach one girl and then you'll see her the next day and she's with a friend and like they already know that like you approached them the previous day and then everything's like ruined.
I have a totally different approach.
Listen up, whoever asked this question. If I know your real name, I will call you, because I speak to a lot of guys. It is irrelevant what city you live in. If you work on yourself, and you work on your environment, and you create fun experiences, people will come. In this tiny town of Bastrop, a lot of people, famous asses, came to visit us. And our Bastrop is great. You know population of Page, where we live? It's 20 people.
20 people.
I don't know. I feel like it's 20 people live there, you know?
It's about
200.
No, it's about 1,800.
What, in Page?
In Page.
Where do they live? I don't even know.
Yeah.
It's
It's about 1,800 people.
It's just one post office in this town, Lloyd. If you know what kind of famous asses visit my house, you'll be surprised.
He won't be. He knows. He comes to our
But I know I can't say it publicly. I don't know if I'm allowed to say it publicly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No,
Like,
you should-
I probably shouldn't.
Definitely don't.
Yeah, I guess maybe should be myself, but not 100% myself. Still gotta control there a little bit. You know, but nonetheless, be high quality, be high value, create fun experiences, and they will come. Build it and they will come, right? It's a movie about that.
Yeah,
Americans like.
But my genuine belief, if you live in a small town, is you don't need to date people in the small town. No matter where you are in the world, you are within a few hours of a large town. You are within a short flight away from a huge town, right? Or a huge city. If you live in a small town, just focus on your stuff in a small town. Do your job, make friends. That's your local town. Date in the big city nearby. I had a guy who was a farmer in Australia, 2 hours away from Adelaide. He lived in the middle of nowhere. There were no neighbors. It was just him on a farm in the middle of nowhere. And his number one issue with dating was, his best relationships were with his cows. There was no one around. And I told him, I need you to, I never said sexual relationships. God. And so I said to him, I'd like you to fly as often as you can to the local city. And he said, well, I can't be away from my farm for too long, but I could probably fly every other weekend for one night. And so he would fly out on a Saturday morning after doing his farm chores, and it was a short flight from his local airport to the domestic airport, wherever it was. And he had a buddy with a plane that would fly him, and he paid for jet fuel, I suppose. And he would arrive, and he would stay the entire day on Saturday. He would go out Saturday night and party. He would stay in a hotel, and he'd fly back Sunday afternoon, and he'd finish off his chores on Sunday. He solved a real logistical issue, and he could do it every other week. I think the plan was every week. He ended up doing it every other week. And sure enough, it didn't take long before he realized that in any bar in Adelaide, if he said he owned a 1,200-acre farm, women were like, I want to see your farm. And he's like, well, I'm flying back on my jet tomorrow. Would you like to come with me? And they go, yeah. And he would fly them back to his farm. And they would hang out at his farm, and they would spend the week because there was nowhere else to go. And they would hang out on the farm, and they would sit on the tractor, and they would turn cows over or tip or whatever. I don't know what you do on a farm, but he hung out on his farm with these women.
It sounds kind of fun, actually.
Yeah, they loved it. He had no problem dating anyone. He didn't even get in a relationship. He was just a different woman every couple of weeks. He would just fly them to his farm. It was a piece of cake. You are not limited by the town. You are limited by your imagination and believing that you can only meet people in your town.
Yes.
You meet people in the big city nearby. I mean, literally, the person we're dating lives in Vegas. We live in Page. And it is not
best city on earth.
And it is not difficult to meet someone in a different town and be like, yo, just fly and see me every other week. It can be done. And it's doable. If you like somebody like this, we've dated people that live in LA and we live in Page.
Women who drive from San Antonio for an hour and a half every night. Come see us.
Every night?
Yeah.
It's more like an hour and 45 minutes.
Yeah, one way. Yeah. And then another way, another 45 minutes.
She had to go home in the morning for a dog. So this is not a problem if you understand what you're doing and what you even for me, dating apps. Yeah. They're like, if I use the dating app in Page, there's only 1,800 people. So there's 3 people in Page.
I still know where they live. Goodness, that's a lot of people. I've never seen that many people now in town. But okay.
We live next to a theme park.
Well,
there are 700 people that live there at all times.
Sure.
That's 700 of them. So anyway, but the point is, I set my dating app to have my location in the big city that's an hour away. And it's easy. I can meet people there, and they go, where do you live? And I'm like, I live an hour east of here. And they go, oh, do you ever come into town? And I'm like, no, but I will if you want to hang out. And they go, cool. And then I just drive in and watch a movie. And then I'm like, do you want to come back and see my ranch? And they go, what do you have in your ranch? And I was like, well, I've got cows, I've got chickens, we grow our own food, we've got a giant trampoline, I've got a swimming pool and a hot tub. We actually had the lights in our garden.
And a cold plunge.
And a cold plunge. The lights in our garden were designed by the same company that did Disney World. They go, no way. I'm like, yeah, I got a picture. They go, that looks so beautiful. It's like a resort. I'm like, yeah, it's my home. I was like, that's me and my wife naked in the hot tub. Just normal stuff that you'd show people when you meet them on a date. Anyway, Scotty.
Yeah, I was going to echo the same thing with dating apps. It's a radius, right? But you can also, small towns aren't usually all by themselves. It's small town, a little space, small town, a little space, small town, small town, small town. So you have that whole range of area to pick from if you like that sort of small town girl. I'm not trying to pitch for farmers only or whatever it's called. But yeah, it's actually a lot more people within 50 miles or even, 75 miles than what you're imagining. And if you do see that as limiting, that's your own limiting belief.
Yeah, just if you live in a small town, what you have is space. What you have is the outdoors. You have things that people in the city cannot get and will travel a long way to get. and they don't have to travel that far if you're in a small town, because you can, no, like in our local town, we have a river, we have paddle boards, we have 2 lakes, like we have everything. You can just come here, and they love it. They get these cool little restaurants they don't know about, and they invite their friends. So yeah, that you can totally do it. But I agree with Lloyd. If you're gonna date in the little town, then yeah, long term, slow, care about your reputation. But I would just not date anyone in my little town and only date people somewhere else. So that's it for questions. I want to take a moment for everyone who's watching live. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We will be back next week. We'll be back next week at 6 p.m. Central Time. So please make sure that you tune in for that. We'd love to have you here. Do us a favor. If you enjoyed this, tell your friends. Let other people know we're committed to doing this every single week, as long as you guys show up and tune in. For the audience, thank you guys so much for coming here on a Thursday night. Remember that if you are scared of life and you are worried and not sure what to do, or you just want to be a little bit more tactical, or maybe you go, man, do I have a pen? Yes, you can with the atomicbear.com/dating, where you can get a tactical pen. This is better than a regular pen because it is tactical. What that means is I can use it to write things. For example, if you have conflict with somebody, I can write my name on a legal suit and sue them. But I can also stab them with these spiky stabby things in case I need to. And on the back of this, I'm not going to open up right now, but on the back here, well, you don't know what's here?
No, I don't know what it is.
There's a secret thing here, this.
Oh.
This is a titanium spike. Now, I've hid this from everyone for the whole episode, but this is a glass breaker. Just in case, ladies, you're in a car, it drives into a lake, you got no way, the electric windows don't work, bam, you smash it, or...
No, you have an ex that's cheating on you, you come to the pen, bam, smash his car. That's how you use it.
Smash his car. I was going to say, very similar, you have an ex, you don't like it when you can smash the picture frame that he's in.
That
Maybe
will
his,
not do damage.
it will...
And I don't have my wounded femininity. It comes from a healthy place.
This is why we're never breaking up. So anyway, I just want to let you guys know, go to theatomicbear.com/dating. These are our sponsors. They make it possible for us to film this. For everyone here, if people want to find more about you, where do they go? How can they, if you want them to? If you don't want them to, don't share. Lloyd, how can people learn more about you?
If you want to find me, you can find me. My YouTube channel is The Single Guy. That's one word. And then my Instagram is a.single.guy. Either of those pages would be just fine. I'm sure some of the viewers from there have come here. But if you don't know me, find me there.
Courtney Titus, and you can find me mostly on Instagram, and it's Courtney, JEAN, TITUS, or my website, CourtneyTitus.com.
I don't know, I've got double microphone, I don't remember. Yeah. If you want to learn more about our dating stuff, I've got something really cool, and that is actually as cool as a tactical pen, and that is you can put me in your pocket. That's right, if you want me in your pocket, you can have me. Go to Ask the Dating Coach. Go to we got to change that. Yes, go to theaceformula.com/gift, and there you will find a script, a series of prompts that you can put in ChatGPT. And I have written so much content over the last 20 years on dating that ChatGPT knows how to be Adam Lyons as a dating coach. So you put those prompts into ChatGPT or your other favorite AI platform, and you can ask that AI version of me questions, and you will get answers just as if I'd done it. That is absolutely true, and it's free. It is a free gift. You go to theaceformula.com/gift and go and have Adam Lyons in your pocket. Unfortunately, it's just for dating advice, nothing else. I can't help you out with any of your other needs. So sorry.
Well, if you want to find me, you can go to aceformula.com/gift. And once you download your PDF, I will contact you.
You can talk to her directly. There you go.
I have no internet presence, I'm sorry. I don't do anything fun.
You can find me also at Ask the Dating Coach. If you want to get a hold of me, just go through Adam.
Perfect. For everyone here, thank you so much for tuning in once again to the second episode of the Ask the Dating Coach podcast. Thank you, guys.